Hi guys, welcome to another procrastinating episode of this podcast. So today I have some few of my friends with me to talk about the new Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse. Wow, and assuming that you're not my friends, damn, that's actually
I'm more than that.
He's hurt by the term.
No, not even 5 minutes. You just jumped in.
Not
down.
even 5 seconds.
Ah, sheesh. Oh. But you guys can already know this is going to be across the universe. But fair warning, I'll be talking about the hot spoilers because we've already seen the movie. So if this is not the podcast for you, you better click on that X or go to a different video. That'll be kind of cool. So, disclaimer, spoilers. This is not spoiler free. And yeah, just listen to your own volition. It's up to you guys. I am not.
Oh, the shit out of you.
I am not being held responsible. Alright.
Watch the movie and come back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you can listen to this. Thank you. Good idea.
Unless you want spoilers, in which case keep listening.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, implied,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
good
fair.
point.
Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah, I spoil myself on shows all the time.
Yeah, 100%. Sometimes you can't even avoid it. It's just like,
But when Bleach takes 10 years to come back, I swear.
Oh no! Do you want better? Attack on Titan. How many final seasons has it? Does it have now?
Is it a three-part finale?
I don't
no,
know.
we had the final season, which was 24 episodes, and now we've got the final season, which is coming out in 3 parts.
Oh my god.
Which they put out 1 part like about a month or 2 ago, and we're still waiting on part 2.
Talk about milking something that's popular.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is what it is. Moving on.
So I just like to welcome everyone to the podcast. So let's start off with introductions. You guys know me. I'm yours truly, Cupid Animations, or Cupid Audios in this case, or just Cupid. To my left, we have Alice. Say hi, Alice.
Make me. Hello.
The degree of professionalism just isn't there.
Right.
Like, doing professionalism, it's not my thing. I don't even do it at work.
Says the guy who streams on Twitch.
I'm your friendly neighborhood.
That's me,
Go fuck yourself.
Rykener, VTuber.
Down below to my left, this is Rykener.
Hello. Rykener.
What was that?
I just didn't... I thought you were introducing me before when you were mentioning that there's a streamer. But apologies.
Finding yourself into my limelight.
And then down below we have Solvy.
Good evening, good afternoon, good night, etc. Wherever you are
Hey.
watching this. Solvy. Avid movie watcher. I love a lot of different stuff about this, and after watching Spider-Man Across the Universe, I'm just gonna throw it out there. This is my favorite Marvel movie ever.
So far.
Cool.
No, just
Huge.
straight up,
Ooh.
this is my favorite Marvel movie I've ever seen.
Actually, it was really good.
Okay, so on that, so everyone has seen the trailers, yes, in the very beginning before the movie came out.
Sure.
I've
Okay.
seen most of them, yeah.
I don't remember them, though. I don't
I believe I watched the big one, but I didn't watch all of them.
Oh, okay. Well, that's alright. Just based on the trailers that you know, or what you guys already seen, what were you expecting, from that alone, and the ending of the Spider-Verse, what are you expecting in this new movie?
I wasn't expecting it to be as good as the first one.
Mm-mm-mm.
I was expecting it to be more like how the other trilogies have gone, where it's just like your first one's really good, but then the second and third kind of follow up as not as good.
Mm.
Oh, like just referencing Spider-Man
Yeah,
film series as in general.
in general.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't really get that off the trailers. For me, it seemed a bit more a different range of challenges, because obviously in the first one it was the initial becomings, some of the things going on with his father and like uncle and the family dynamic there. This one was your sort of typical weighing up of like, now that he is a bona fide superhero, I suppose, it's that balancing act of both lives, because obviously who you are with the mask on, who you are without the mask on, it has to be translated in different ways, and it's just that balance. So I wasn't expecting it to be worse, absolutely not. I was just expecting it to be a very different variety of challenges. And then also seeing in the trailers, as you were mentioning, Cupid, just we saw some really interesting things. Obviously, there was like the major trailer where we saw Gwen Stacy's Spider-Girl character. She seemed to experience like a lot of loss in some aspect, but we didn't know what specifically that was. Like there was a scene where she was like kind of crouched down, holding on to someone known. After watching the film, learning that was like her universe as Peter Parker was like super interesting. Also how can you go past just seeing the various different Spider-Man from across the multiverses, or across the Spider-Verse in this case? So many different ones, just the reintroduction of like some of the old ones. I don't think we had Spider-Ham pop up in this one. Trying to think back, I don't recall.
I thought it was cool that it was showing us like it was more like issues with the family, stuff like that going on, and then it was pointing out who the antagonist would be during this movie.
Yeah, because we had like obviously the Spot show up in the trailers, and it was like, oh, you see, that seems like a weird big bad, but like, is it him? And then one of the Spider-Men seeed to be quite antagonistic as well. And then it was like,
that's right.
Is it that dude? It was like, wow, what's going on?
I was really expecting that like leader, the like Spider group, to have been essentially the villain after watching the trailer. That's something I do definitely.
Yeah, and he was kind of just like a secondary figure, obviously prominent throughout the film, but just secondary as an antagonist, I suppose, is a better way of describing it, because it wasn't so much like a direct conflict of Miles Morales versus him as the main plot point across the film. That did happen, but yeah, from what we got across the trailers, it was just really cool to see what he was going to weigh up as like the challenge that needed to be beat, like how he was going to tackle his home life versus like the superhero life, and then the introduction of like learning out about all the Spider-Verse and just everything that was going on. It seemed like it was going to be quite heavy-handed.
Yeah, no, I agree. Just based on the trailers and stuff, they were very discreet on what they wanted to show. So I was sort of like going into this, as you said, about the challenges about this home life. I thought it was going to go into deeper about that, because they haven't really, well, I mean, they have, challenged the whole entire home life about Spider-Man, but not sort of in this, I guess, how should I say, in a more cultural aspect, if that's fair to say. Like, I haven't really dove really that deep into it. It's not just on the surface, whether this is a little bit more internal. And, and then at the ending of the actual Spider-Verse, the first one, everyone knew it was going to pick up where it left off, but it's like how it's going to be intertwined. So I guess a little bit concerned if it's going to be all over the place, just a little bit. As in, like, for the storyline is telling point of view. Yeah, but I was very, very excited, definitely about the whole entire aesthetic, about the art. I knew it's going to be a one-up, or a definitely more one-ups than from the first movie.
Budget's a bit bigger, we can do what we want now.
Yeah, pretty much. They kind of just went all like ham. They really went creative. And the fact that they were so discreet, it's not like, they showed much. So it kind of like left you hang on the edge a little bit. I was very excited, but concerned at the same time. But yeah, no, I was very, very interested to see how everything it turned out, and the fact that they've introduced the multiverse, if that's going to be intertwined with the other Supermans, not just more than just
Spider-Mans?
references. Yeah,
Spider-Man's or Superman's?
no, Spider-Man's.
Wrong.
No, I
Yeah,
said Spider-Man's, didn't I?
You said
No, you said
Superman.
Superman's.
Did I? Oh, no, I meant I blame my lisp.
Yes, not the first to fuck up.
No, that's okay. I can just edit that out. No, but I was very excited if it's going to be intertwined with the other Spider-Mans and not just, the references. Because, yeah, sure, they show Spot, but it didn't really made him a complete villain. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because I know Spot turns up in the comics, and he was like, air quote villain of the week. It's like, okay, is this just going to be just a one-off thing, or why is this relevant? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I guess it was like a good introductory point to the film, was having the Spot be kind of the first thing that Miles has to deal with, which I thought was cool. And yeah, as you said, like just the villain of the week sort of trope. It was what's next, blah blah blah. And he's just constantly spending like the rest of the movie trying to power up to a point where he could be considered a legitimate bad guy.
So on that note,
that was a cool to see like actual growth in a villain and not just like a main character or protagonist. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, about all the challenges, all the drama, the situations, even Spot, what was the movie really about to you guys? What do you guys picked up in your point of view? Because it kind of like followed basically 3 different stories. Like it followed Gwen's, it followed Mars, it follows Miguel's just a little bit. And then we have Spot. Which is basically the catalyst for all of this.
Movie itself?
Sorry?
Are we talking about the character or the actual movie itself?
The actual movie.
Like the theme of the whole movie?
General, really.
I would say it weighed a lot on... there's a lot of references earlier on about how, like, making Miles and like letting Miles be who he wants to be, and then it going into how he, in a way, he's sort of the antagonist of the whole story because he's the anomaly. So it's the theme is sort of about like overcoming being the problem yourself in a way. I feel like.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just to add on, I guess for me, for Miles himself, overcoming adversity, like discovering what's necessary to accomplish what it is that Spider-Man stands for, I suppose. Because up until this point, he never really made like true sacrifices or anything. So it was kind of, that was, I suppose, the heavy aspect for Miles was just what is it going to take for him to be a superhero, for him to be this person that the community or the world at large could like look up to, and what does he have to do to accomplish that, the things he has to overcome. For Gwen, it was more of an acceptance, because I think she knew all that already. Like she made her sacrifices. She lost people, whether it be Peter or the difficulties with her home life as it was. She kind of had gone through that loss point, so now it was kind of more of a redemption / understanding for her. So she's kind of like the next step along compared to Miles. And we could even throw Miguel under that and be like, yeah, he's like super down the line where it's like live long enough to see yourself become the villain in a way. Just because of this perverse understanding of what he believes Spider-Man should be and like what's necessary to accomplish like peace or saving anyone, etc. So he's kind of at the end of the line. But yeah, for me, it was like just different stages of
Think
representing
Spider-Man
a
is different
hero, or
plot
like
points.
representing what it is to be a hero, almost, or at least through movie tropes.
Yeah, what I got from it, it's not so much well, yes, it's all about being Spider-Man, but like I said about, have that internal, dealing with the culture and dealing with your, family issues and the challenges of being Spider-Man. It mostly is just about the family situations or the family dramas that Spider-Mans have to deal with. Like it's like Incredibles, for example. It's an Incredible dealing with family situations. It just so happened to be superheroes. You know what I'm saying? If you take out the superhero aspect and you just have all those challenges there and those issues, you still get a really great movie. It's not so much enforcing as a trope as being superheroes. It's just, like you said, figure out who you are.
Yeah,
and how
coming to an understanding.
Yeah, and I really like how they basically follow 3 stories, mostly about Gwen's, because it kind of follows hers quite strictly, I guess, compared to the other 2. Does that make sense? Because it started off as a very strong point, and then we have her narration, and then you kind of see her being on this big journey, capturing the spot. And it just so happens, I guess, coincidentally, that she stumbles upon Miles' universe. And we all know that's why. And that's how he gets roped in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then we have Miguel's, which is, I guess you can say, the anti-hero, just a little bit, that everything needs to be canon, and everything needs to be set out in the exact same way, otherwise this happens. So in his experience,
doesn't exist.
Yeah, and in his experience, everything is a bad experience of him being a Superman, a Spider-Man. Superman, you guys made me. Fuck!
We didn't do shit. You did
no. Oh no! Oh, that's my bad. I hate myself. It's different universe altogether, buddy. Yeah, no, that's on me.
The understanding is you're in between superhero and Spider-Man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and different occupation altogether. That's on me. Sorry, guys. I know. I'm awful.
Hey, man, it's all for your entertainment. Or entertainers.
I just find it ironic they have the very, very similar color patterns. You know what I'm saying? The color scheme.
Yeah, I guess like a traditional Spider-Man.
Except one of them doesn't have a cape.
You're right. One was bitten by a spider. The other one gets these superpowers from another planet. Sorry, another sun.
That way.
Another
Kind
sun,
wow.
Yeah, I was saying.
They're almost the same, right?
Oh no! Yesterday I was watching Super Pets on Netflix. I don't know. I think that's still in my head. I guess. No, that's my bad. Anyways, I was kind of saying that Miguel's kind of story is an all bad experience, where the Miles is kind of in between, and then we have Gwen, which is, well, kind of rocky, but it ends up being a good experience because of that acceptance. And then we have Spot as a catalyst, and whilst he's not entirely a main character, he is definitely the most important character here. Because if it wasn't for him and, for his research in the 42 universe, Miles wouldn't even be a Spider-Man.
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh, actually, good quirk to that. Something a friend of mine noticed was that, because he brought it up and then we had to sit there and think about it, but he went back and watched it to confirm. But in Into the Spider-Verse, so the first film, during that there was moments where the spider was fizzing out and sort of flickering.
I remember.
Yes.
Across the Spider-Verse, Miles is obviously doing that. In this weird understanding of is he in the right world or whatever. And as soon as he kind of lost the bracelet, which was connecting him to
that
said
particular universe.
said verse, I suppose, or said universe. Yeah, without it, that he would also be like doing that flickering thing, and he brought it up, and it was like the spider that bit him, because it's from another universe. Was it flickering in the first one? And I was like,
did.
yeah, I think it did. We had to go back and confirm, but we were like, yeah, that's sick. That's a cool little like Easter egg. As you're watching the movie, whether you've seen it already or not, for anyone listening. That was just something that we kind of like picked up on as we were going through, and we're like, oh, that's a really cool touch. It's like some foreshadowing as well.
Yeah, it's foreshadowing into the next movie where it's just like you're sitting here going, why is that spider glitching? And then you completely glaze over it for the entirety of the first movie, and it doesn't come about until the second movie.
Yeah.
But it's such an important feature, you know? Yeah. So there's a lot of things in this movie, and I do need to watch it like a third time. Is that
a third time? What the shit?
Listen, man. I need to at least watch it at least 3 times. Okay, there was so much going on.
I've seen it twice.
I should have seen it twice. God damn it!
But yeah,
behind the ball.
Rykener, how about you? What do you think of what the movie was really about?
Me, well, I like expressed before, it's I guess the second theme that I haven't really mentioned is I think a big part of it is also Miles and Gwen's relationship with each other. That does take a bit of a center stage through a bunch of the scenes. And it was really cool to see. I think they nailed it. I think they did a really good job. Like a lot of the aspects of things like long distance relationship type things that like happen with those. Like not knowing what the other has been up to, having been like communication issues and all that. I think they did a really good job expressing.
Yeah, and how it can sort of like lead to toxicity and misunderstanding, and
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
That's why, like, anyone who's doing a long distance relationship, like, more power to you if you're going to give it a go. But I can fully see why there's a vast majority that just don't, because it's hard, and it was no different for Gwen and Miles. So.
Well, the worst part about it for them is it's just not like even if it's across the country or across multiple countries, it's legitimately, you can still text each other, but these two are just completely cut off between universes.
But it's still very adamant that they still have feelings for each other, though.
Yeah, so then that was another part that I thought was really good. Like, you start to see Miles get that like distrust and like feeling like Gwen's been sort of like behind his back this time, and then seeing Gwen sort of... Oh, God damn it, my voice.
Your voice is beautiful.
Yeah, it's just dying, sorry. So like Gwen sort of just like continued to be herself and like sort of fight to show that she's on Miles' side this whole time. They sort of get that back towards the end. It was good. Really good to see.
Yeah, not only that, it's just like just work duties in general. Because Miles and Gwen's work duties as Spider-Man's is kind of different. Or a lot different. Because Miles is an anomaly and Gwen isn't. So there's definitely going to cause a rift between their relationship. On how they see each other.
Yeah, even without that, though, just the type of Spider-Man that they are, like, because in her universe, obviously, she's this outcast, sort of hunted by police unknowingly by her father for long periods of time as well, and like she's very much a vigilante, as where for Miles, like, he works with like everyday police as well as the community at large, and he's liked and supported. So they just have a very different idea of what it takes to be a Spider-Man, which I thought was very cool to loosely elaborate on early on. Obviously, it wasn't a focus of the film, but it was just cool to see the differences in some of the flashbacks as well.
And this what makes
not everyone's going to have it easy.
Yeah, and this what makes, such a good movie, because there are multiple messages portrayed in this movie itself, and it's a long movie. Don't get me wrong. There is a jam-packed full of like messages
nearly
and art.
2.5 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, and they spent a lot of time in it, and that's very clear. And it just goes down to, just good storytelling of, show, don't tell. And just having that strain in the dialogues or, in the actions of these characters is honestly very beautiful. Very realistic. I felt like I was looking, not just a lens, but an actual, a person's life. I can see right through them. It's very transparent.
Mm.
And it doesn't feel like you're watching a movie. Really, it feels like you're watching some sort of biography.
Some sort of superhero documentary.
Legitimately, yeah. Yeah, a
once
little
you get
bit.
to the Spider HQ and stuff like that, and start going over all the canon and what things that are meant to happen.
Mm-mm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And especially when we don't even know what's happening because we've got so little from the trailers, and they just kept that very close to their hearts, very close to their hand.
Yeah, they were definitely keeping that story very, very close to the chest in terms of the trailers and all that kind of drama. When I saw the trailers, I was not expecting the story we were walking into.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a roller coaster and a half. And then when we get to the ending, it's it's going to be a two-parter, but
I fucking didn't.
No.
That's on you.
I walked in there going, the end's going to be at some point. We've been in here for a fucking while. Where's this end? To be continued. Motherfuckers.
Yeah, because it had, part one in the very beginning of their, coming out with Across the Universe, and Sony actually took that away because it's meant to pick up where it left off. You know what I'm saying? So why have a part one there where you can actually just watch basically a three-parter? You can just have a fat marathon. Yeah.
It did feel like a really strange final ending though. For a movie, it was really
cliffhangery.
Even though it was meant to be a two-parter, it felt like a series episode ending, with a cliffhanger, such a fine line cliffhanger. Like there is no definitive end there. That is straight up. This needs to go immediately into the next thing, and now we're just waiting.
I have physical rage in my body that I do not have a third movie here.
It's almost as if it's Harry Potter's, two-part is done right, and Twilight two-part is done right.
What do you mean? I love the Twilight movies.
Get out! Just no, not even.
If we're arguing that point, I like the story of Twilight. I don't like the actors.
Joking? The story of Twilight is so bad. I don't understand why people love it. No offense to all your Twilight people out there, but I could not.
No, complete offense.
Oh no!
The books were good.
Have you read it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I needed to know what the hype was at school.
Fair enough.
Wait, there was hype for the books before the movies? At your school?
Yeah, there was, yeah.
Really?
Everybody was walking around with that black book with an apple on it.
Genuinely didn't even know about it till the first movie came out, and then there was hype for me.
Oh my god.
Oh, good lordy.
And then after that, it was the 50 Shades of Grey, and it was just like, cool, everybody's carrying out written porn.
Yeah.
Damn.
I
don't know if I can have that in this video, but we'll see.
Gonna have to probably bleep that bit.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Just
Probably
a long
the last
beat.
3 minutes.
Find Alice's audio track and erase it. It will be all
Honestly, the podcast would just be amazing if I just wasn't here.
No.
My language is not exactly the most... what's the word? Tends to be a little grating on the ears in terms of, all the swearing and the nonchalant lines. Anyway, carrying on.
Yeah.
So what's next on the docket?
So, we talked about,
Could have
the
been.
multiple messages. There's also another point that I like to bring up with this group, with this podcast.
About
I
how much
love-
you wanted to go against canon, like every other Spider-Man.
Exactly.
There we go. I got
because
you.
because out of all the Spider-Mans, we've seen everything, kind of set up very similarly to their family or to their friends. The loved one dies, they can't
Somebody's
get
got
over
to
that trauma.
say the famous line.
Yeah, so they kind of has to keep that, I guess, parallel symbolism story going. And once we sort of got that from Miles because of his uncle, dying, which is now dead.
Spoilers.
Yeah. Crazy, right? The fact that he still wants to save everyone and he still wants to save his homeworld, despite him being an anomaly. The thing about Miles is that he's supposed to be one of the top 3 Spider-Mans in the whole entire Spider-Mans.
Are we just going universal, like across Spider-Man content in general?
Yeah.
Is technically has the highest ceiling for strength, power, blah blah blah.
Yeah, pretty much. So already he's quite unique. And I see that Miles is a symbol of creativity. Not just because he does art, it's because, his ending phrase in the last movie was, anyone can wear the mask. Kind of like thing. And they're kind of challenging that phrase altogether in this movie, in the Across the Universe, because they don't want him to be a Spider-Man anymore, but he still wants to be Spider-Man.
And he wasn't destined to be Spider-Man. It was always meant to be Peter Parker or Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, it was, but the fact that, that he is, and despite how everything, kind of turned out, it sort of goes back to No Way Home just a little bit. Because in No Way Home, Tom Holland's Spider-Man was meant to be written out differently, apparently. And so the fans, they were saying, they were upset that Tom Holland's Spider-Man didn't have enough trauma. It should be, someone needs to die, someone close to him. So it's either going to be Aunt May or, MJ. And
Or
then
Tony
that's sort
Stark,
of...
apparently.
Yeah.
True, he did go through that one.
Definitely
Yeah.
went through that one.
Yeah, so whilst it was supposed to be, either one of them dying, it's meant to be, I think it's meant to come in the later movies, but not so much in No Way Home. But the fact that how it kind of turned out and No Way Home did have that, well, the whole point of No Way Home was more like a nostalgia trip. Like, it wasn't a great movie, it wasn't a bad movie, it was sort of like in between. You know what I'm saying? And then the way it kind of like happened, that kind of cemented the canon. And that's sort of what I'm trying to get at. I know this is sort of like a really roundabout way of like trying to explain what I'm like, trying to say here. But this has always been my biggest concern with Spider-Man in general. I've always asked myself, how come it's so similar? How come the stories are so similar? And I'm really glad that in this movie they're actually addressing it.
Where
Like,
it is
finally.
supposed to be a canonical event that certain things are supposed to happen, like an Uncle Ben or an Aunt May are supposed to die and say the famous lines with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
And I like the fact, same as you, I like the fact that Miles is challenging that.
Yeah, and it's you kind of have to see it in a way that the rest of the Spider-Mans are like a corporate or like, the corporate stocks. That everything
We've already
needs to
been
be
there,
the
man.
same, including Miguel. Everything needs to be the same, everything needs to be canon. And then we just have a few people who are like, no, we don't want that. we want it to be something completely different. We want to have, a Spider-Man who can have it all, and that's Miles. And that's what we're getting. And like I said before, there is a lot of stuff just jam-packed into this movie. And I just love how everything has been set out, and I can understand why there's going to be a two-parter. Because you can't explain all of this in just one movie. You can't have conclusions for everything in just one. I love how it's been set out. I love how it's taking their time. Because this is a brilliant movie sequel.
Yeah, I think it's definitely appreciative that they want to take their time and like spread it out, not like rush content, which is good. I will still always hold that I would have liked the ending to have not been quite so
cliffhanger.
Abrupt, yeah. It kind of like boom.
Either way,
certainly makes me hyped for the next one, though.
It does. I can understand why they did it. It is quite different as well. You don't really see most movie two-parters do something that's like that on like in the middle of the action. Still,
Yeah.
I was actually like ready for this whole thing to go down with all the the old gang getting back together and going to go get Miles. I was like, I'm all for this, and then it's like, oh god damn.
Yeah, it's not like Infinity Wars where it's just like, all right, cool. Now we have everybody kind of blipped. This is a good place to finish the movie, and then we'll get everybody back for the next movie.
Yeah, like even though you knew there was a second part coming with that one, the movie sort of still had like a definitive endpoint. It wasn't like in a way.
Yeah,
like,
it kind of
more
says, yeah.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, it just needs to be set up for something more. And I think we're going to get that. Because now we're going to look at the universe of what it's meant to be with Miles. Because Miles is actually now a bad guy. That's crazy. I was crazy once. I was
From a certain perspective.
I can't wait to see what happens with like how that interaction goes between the two Miles.
So I think I might come down and visit, and we'll go and watch it together, I think.
But that's also like another thing I want to bring up. You know how in like I guess in previous multiverses or like I guess doppelgangers in a way, it's having that rift time in space. But also, I'm surprised that one of them haven't like completely ripped it yet. If that makes sense.
In different comic stories, there are ones that have.
I'm just wondering if that's going to be, I wasn't what I'm trying to say. It's I'm just wondering if they're going to have that in the next movie. Essentially.
What? Just have like the
doppelgangers.
The space between worlds just completely gets shredded apart, and then everyone's going to come out of everywhere.
Oh yeah, a little bit.
Kind of how like they almost did in No Way Home.
Yeah, a little
with all
bit.
the villains.
Yeah, a little bit. Because it hasn't happened yet. I guess.
Don't think that they are likely to, given that it sits too close to No Way Home. I have a feeling it'll be closer to traveling through the different universes with Spot, but I don't think it'll be a collapse of... I think there'll be a threat of collapse, but I don't think that actually will happen.
Because we know that Spot is collecting one of the worlds, but I'm kind of like saying, wouldn't it also collect both their worlds because Miles is meeting his other self? Kind of thing.
Oh, so you're more like the ramifications or something of them being interconnected across universes.
Yeah, like some universal like complications between their worlds, not just the one kind of thing.
Yes, no, I think the universe has got that one fairly covered with the glitch.
Yeah, and given that like this hasn't already happened with all the Peters interacting or like all the Spider-Man, then I don't think there's really a chance of seeing that. Given like you look at like Spider-Man HQ and how many are there, something would have to have happened if that's.
They're all wearing the watch, so
but even with like even with a wristband or a watch, like surely some of them get recruited or they come over or like. There would be instances where maybe something goes wrong.
I don't
think there'll be too much going on as far as like a breakdown of universes colliding or anything like that. I don't think like Earth 42 is gonna get messed up with the one that he's currently gone to. What was it?
Well, 1610 is the one he's from, and 42 is the one he's in now. The one the spider's from is 42.
Yeah. So I don't think there'd be like some sort of crazy intersection of 1610 and Earth 42 or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't see it, at least not in that way. If that is going to happen, it's not going to be because of a character meeting.
Yeah, I just, with what we've seen so far, I don't think it'll be like cataclysmic. Let's put it that way. I think we've already like settled on, hey, you don't belong in this universe, so you're just gonna blip out, and eventually, like you're just slowly gonna
glitch out and
glitch out and get warped somewhere else or whatever.
The only I am curious to know is because of Spot.
I think something that will come to a head though is what happens when that glitch finally comes about.
Yeah, because we
so at the moment we've got the threat of this glitch and all the flashing movement and all that kind of stuff, but we don't actually know what happens when it finishes what it does. So I'm curious to know what will happen if they'll add it into the next movie, whether or not that threat becomes real.
I think we do know, because it like loosely gets explained that they get like warped out of existence. Whether that means they like just don't exist anywhere anymore.
That's what I mean. Like it's hinted through Miguel's story, but it's not actually. It's not been experienced through Miles.
Nah, I don't think it'll come up. I think it would be highly unlikely that it would come up.
Because the thing with Miguel is, Miguel basically just killed his Miguel self in that other world. That hasn't happened yet with Miles himself yet.
I think Miguel died in that world, and he just replaced himself.
Yeah, it wasn't that he killed the other Miguel, but he just replaced.
Oh, was it actually replaced? Because because when it happened, when they showed, it was like dying on the floor dead, and I just assumed, he killed him. Damn, he replaced himself as that dad.
No, they did a full Rick
this
and
went
Morty
so dark.
They did a full Rick and Morty and just went, well, we're going to a universe where we literally just died. And we're just going to bury ourselves and replace ourselves.
I want to know what he died from.
Who knows? Fighting the rhino, got stabbed through the chest. Who knows?
I don't know, maybe he got drowned with sand.
See, that's what I mean. That needs to be a question that needs to be answered on my behalf.
What happened?
That would have been very special circumstances, though, given that he's like replacing a character. I mean, that's the other thing that I don't know if they explained it at the time, is like how he was able to replace Miguel in the other world. Wait, did he already have a bracelet at that point to not glitch out?
Yes.
No. Oh, I did.
He did.
He did, right? Yeah.
He'd already founded, or already begun founding the Spider-Verse HQ.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's this town on this planet that he's on at the moment that's completely blipped out.
I wondered if it was just like some way that he'd found to stay in that universe without glitching out that wasn't the bracelet, because you can't really say it's a bracelet's fault if the universe that he's in, like, was it 928? If that's not just completely imploding because of how many Spider-Men are there.
No, so the reason that it blipped out is because he missed a canonical event. So something was meant to happen that didn't. And so the whole world just kind of went, well, fuck you, we're out.
That event being his actual death.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's weird. I do hope they explain that better. Going forward.
But
that is something that they don't really talk about too much.
No, I think we might actually get some more answers in the second parter. I think. I mean, it would kind of have to. Otherwise, that is a very big plot hole.
Potentially.
I don't think
it's a
big plot hole. But
it's definitely a big plot hole in his character.
I think it was a story that was very loosely glazed over. I don't think it would be classed as a plot hole. I think there are definitely events in that story that were lacking.
Yeah, a plot
if
hole.
they don't cover it.
A plot hole implies that the information missed.
Could have changed the story.
Yeah, it doesn't explicitly lead to where we are now, but that information wasn't necessary. So,
well,
it would be satisfying to have it like figured out, or to have that information, but I don't think it changes anything. Yeah, it doesn't change anything.
I agree to
unless the event
disagree
happens
with
again.
that.
I mean, it could have gone into the
as Rag just said, like, unless like this questionable whatever event actually comes to pass.
Which is what I'd assume, given
Like,
they haven't really given any details, but like how serious they're taking it as a threat. I would, that is something that I would expect to at least get more reference in the next movie, and that will become more relevant.
I mean, the fact that they mentioned it should become relevant. Otherwise, why would the world just, collapse then? You know what I'm saying? Just blip.
Yeah.
Like, I get it that I get that, that him himself,
the reason
should have died
that
and
could
just be
be
left
the reason,
dead.
So that could be the reason why they haven't alluded to this pre-existing stuff with Miguel and blah 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 blah, is because it's going to be a relevant thing that's going to get explored with Miles in like later down the line. So maybe they're like just ignoring. Yeah, so maybe they're just ignoring it from previous instant because it's not relevant to what, and they want to cover it in depth at a later point with different characters.
Well, that's it. Like the spider, with the spider glitching in the first movie, it wasn't relevant to this movie, but it's relevant in the second movie. They might be alluding to something that happened in the second movie.
Yeah, this could just be foreshadowing.
Yeah. And like, you're getting this from Miles' perspective, and at that instance, he doesn't care about like how it all works. He just wants to make sure it doesn't happen to his world. Yeah, when that's all getting explained, Miles doesn't really care about Miguel's story as much as he cares about saving him.
Didn't exactly give Miguel an opportunity to explain how his life kind of folded out.
I mean,
well, at
Miguel
least not yet.
didn't really give Miles the reason to listen.
That's also true.
That's true. It's just like, hang on, I want you to listen to my story. I'm a lucky in the cage, so you can listen to this.
But please wait while the rest of us have an argument.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying,
by the way, your dad's gonna die in like 2 days.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if it doesn't get addressed in the next movies, then it kind of would be. Just for, like, at least for his character. Because we see him, like, super happy in this world, and then we see him as this, like, really dark, rugged guy. It's like, what happened other than your, like, how does your world come about? How does his story unfold kind of thing? It's not so much as the plot itself, but definitely the plot with his character.
But because he's not a main character, it's not really relevant.
He is the main antagonist of this movie. I have a feeling we'll probably delve into his story a bit further in the third movie. But I don't think it was necessary for this one.
Yeah, it didn't need to be explored here. Like, and depending on like the point of view that they use from like going forward, they could still not explore it, and I don't think it is that big of a problem because there's probably going to be like some comics and like source material and other things that might go into more detail about the Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man, because his character exists in expanded universe for Spider-Man comics and everything else. So like this already might be explained just through his own story and through comics or through like light novels or something.
Essentially, everybody out there who hasn't read the comics, go and do it. If you want to know more about the movie, go and read the comics. Don't be stupid.
That's because it's a transmedia,
Yeah, like, so that could already have been... Yeah, that could already have been explored. And it's just because it's not from Miguel's point of view, or this series of films, like Across the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, isn't to be taken from like Miguel's point of view. So maybe it doesn't need to be explored here because technically they could have already done it. I haven't read a huge number of the comics, so I haven't actually looked into like Spider-Man 2099, which is Miguel's publication.
He's from Earth 928.
Yeah, but the story I think is Spider-Man 2099.
I'm looking. Yeah, it is 2099.
Yeah. So the background details to him could just be in there.
Maybe, but
if they're in there, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I understand you would like it to be, I guess, emphasized, but it's not necessary, is basically the point.
Because here's the thing, if it's been like, it could be like the same thing as, the Spot, because the Spot was meant to be, villain of the week, and that's what they put in there for the references. And, the writers actually saw potential and they actually expanded on that. Spot was meant to be a one-off villain, but in this movie, he's actually, still very much alive and well and not captured yet. So I haven't really read Miguel's story. I don't know how, far it goes into, but for this particular,
you can read that in Spider-Man 2099 issue number 1, which came out on September 1992, fucking 31 years ago.
What? Sheesh. Yeah, but for this particular story, it should be addressed because not everyone's going to read the comics. That's the thing.
No,
sure,
amazing.
Because it could just be some things lightly
but
referenced,
as Ryk said, and as we've sort of alluded to, maybe they don't want to go into it here.
Yeah.
Because it's something that will be relevant at a later point. maybe.
Yeah, in the next one.
Because there's obviously going to be another clash with Miguel and Miles and stuff, and when that happens, maybe there'll be an opportunity for dialogue, and when that happens, maybe there'll be a flashback, and that it might get covered there.
And it's possible that we can do character twist where he kind of just comes. I'm a bad guy.
Film, it just wasn't necessary to go into.
Yeah, he needed to be the antagonist of this movie.
Yeah, no, but I was saying about it needs to be addressed in the next movie. Not so much in this movie because there was a lot of other things to cover, but it should be addressed in the next movie. That's what I'm saying. Good if it doesn't, then it's still.
I wouldn't be upset if it doesn't, but
yeah.
I would not be in the slightest bit upset if it doesn't get covered, because I think it's pretty well implied. But at the same time, it could eventually lead to some sort of story problem for this film series. But we just don't know what's going to happen, so we can't say it needed to be in this film because it might be something happening at a later point. If at the end of the later point, if it becomes an issue, sure. But for now. Yeah. We can't know that, so it's whatever.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So on that note, discussing about the different worlds and how they were portrayed and carried. What do you guys think to each of the art styles?
I really liked how
the art
they
styles genius,
Actually, though, there were a couple of moments in there where right at the very start of the movie, that's probably one of my favorite effects that they've done in the entire movie, was when Miles was talking to his dad in the Spider-Man suit, and then they had the effects going on top of the blue tarping that they had on how can I say it other than a balcony? It's not a balcony. But as they're looking down onto all this typing, and they've got all these effects going onto the typing, and it makes it look like the wind is actually moving them, as in some animations where they kind of leave it blank, and shadow and some weird movement that they've got going, but it actually looks like it's moving. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Sorry, you were saying something, Ryk, before we kind of started going over the top of you.
That's all good. I liked how they did real life people within Spider, because in the first movie you see them mix in with all the different cartoon and anime art styles with Spider-Man's main one. I thought it was a really cool addition to then also add in real life people with like Spot jumping into the shop in real life, and then also one of the things that we haven't mentioned yet is Childish Gambino's cameo.
Yes.
That where he's in prison.
Is he supposed to be the Vulture of that particular universe?
No, it was the Thrasher, the
No,
purple
the Prowler.
Prowler.
Oh, was
sorry,
it Prowler?
Yeah, he was a Prowler.
Yeah, it was a
of that
Prowler.
specific
Yeah, it was a Prowler.
Yes.
And then they threw in
the rock
some bits
guy.
for Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man as well.
Yeah, and Tobey Maguire. The references with the like explaining the canon and like showing them. They also had the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man game in there as well.
Yeah, anyone who hasn't yet seen the film but is listening to this with all the spoilers, etc., the canon is kind of like it's explained by a picture of spider web, and within the web, all the lines of string are the events of things that are happening / need to happen. And at one point, we kind of get that scene where they're describing the Spider-Verse and like the web of these events that are happening for Spider-Man all across the and it kind of delves in and shows, I guess, fragmented, shadowy memories.
The Spider-Verse has a different name. Can anybody remember the name of it? Because I fucking can't.
Wait, which thing?
Miguel named it something absurdly long.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it's called.
Arachne. It was like Arachne.
It was like a 5-word.
Some big thing that really needs an acronym.
Yeah, no, because
Let's just sum it down to Spider-Verse.
No, I remember. It's like because it was the more, I guess, scientific term for Spider-Verse, and then that's what Mars was saying. Like, isn't it just call it Spider-Verse? He's like,
That's stupid. But
yeah, it's like arachne
That's
something.
it, but so's mine.
What was it?
Yeah.
It's like my
I'll see if I can find it.
Okay.
Yeah. But the art style's really cool. And as you were saying, Rag, it's like delving into these like canon events, and I don't know what your point was going to be, but it was like kind of like having those like shadowy figures and stuff. I thought was like a sweet overlap with the previous Spider-Man, whether it was the Tobey Maguire scene of the Uncle Ben scene, or the same thing with Andrew Garfield's as well. Kind of got blended in with those like phantom images, phantom memory things that were kind of like popping up.
All right, so they called it the Arachno Humanoid Polymultiverse.
Arachno Humanoid Polymultiverse.
Yeah.
Yes. Wait, Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
My favorite way that they tackled the art are at 2 points. Something they did extremely well in the early part, when we were kind of having that initial introduction of what's Gwen Stacy been up to for the last like little bit, what's going on in her world, etc. When she's kind of leaving her place and she's walking onto the train, but while she's walking onto the train, like you get the visions in the background and everything sort of, and the reflections change based on the events that are happening, and like memories from her time with Miles initially, and that was an awesome scene, like just with her walking along there and having these different things being pieced around her, sort of enveloping her thoughts and making it look like she's almost being heavily weighed down by the thoughts of Miles and the events with like the Peter from her world, her father, etc. The other thing that gets tackled extremely well with this movie is the use of color for emotional purposes.
Yes.
So
True,
when things are somber or dreary, like everything goes quite monotone, it's very bland.
Gonna make it
then when there's like happier moments, like everything gets a lot brighter and things are a bit more in your face. But the use of color and like hue is incredible.
I mean, they use that for characters as well, because anytime you're around a Miguel, everything seems to be so much darker and so much more threatening.
It's like darker but more highlighted. So there's like all like the red streaks. You see him with the welcome in the background a lot, and it's like just like black with this bright red neon, basically. Like everything's like super highlighted.
Yeah, they're highlighting the character's theme with the colors that are in the background. It's like, this is a dark moment. We need to be kind of wary or scared of this particular character. He's threatening. Kind of like what they do with spiders, like redbacks or black widows.
Yeah, no, I love how you pointed that out because we don't really see that enough in, movies these days. And I really like how they came back to the more theory about color and how they represent like symbolisms of emotions. And just going back to the basics of color theory, essentially. Like they did that in Beauty and the Beast just a little bit. They definitely did that in Horimiya, in the anime Horimiya, if you guys haven't seen it. They definitely had, silhouette of their characters in the background. And it kind of like shows the color as it kind of like pans across the screen.
I would disagree to that to some point, purely because it is a massive, massive thing in any movie editing. They know that sounds, colors, etc., works heavily on what the audience should be feeling at that particular moment.
Well,
so
yeah,
it may not be as subtle as what it was in Spider-Verse, but it is there.
Well, no, I'm not saying like they don't use it. I'm just saying they like this was very definitely heavily implied as they would do like in some of the recent like movies, because usually you just see like a tint or you would see just like a camera, like certain lighting of camera, what I mean, or like even just dark shadows, things like that. But this goes into a more deeper level, into a more theorized level.
Well, the idea behind some of them is to be more subconscious than it is to be more in your face about it. Spider-Verse is definitely in your face. This is what you should be feeling at this moment. Other movies are less subtle about it, and it's more like, we're going to change the music theme, we're going to chuck a dulling on the camera, or change some of the things in the background so that way it adds to the effect of what you're feeling, but you're not actively noticing them.
And that's
one thing I want to add on to like Solvy's point was the emotion they had in the background and like the colors that they used. There were multiple scenes, I think, particularly with like Gwen talking to her father, which I think was like really notable for this.
Yes, and was so good.
Like seeing the like really sort of blurred back. It's not really blurred, but like monotone background.
Yeah, dull.
But you could see it sort of falling like rain on a window. I thought that was a really cool effect that they did with it. If you like looked really closely, it was sort of like liquids falling down the wall, like the paint was melting, kind of thing. Like I thought that was really, really, really neat.
I'm on a shitload of LSD. The walls are moving.
But that's what
just
makes,
so how like dreary and down the situation was, like how sad. But like to really like hammer home that like sad feeling is just like
this is the place I don't want to be,
sort of thing. Yeah.
And that's what makes Gwen's well like so interesting, because they're legitimately showing that color, and I think
which I thought was great, because they'd have that kind of scenario. It's just like, are you too punk to give your dad a hug? And then she goes straight in for it, and you get that big splash of color all of a sudden.
Yeah, in this like really like huge, dreary, like sad blue room. Yeah, and I cannot wait to see the scrapbook style. What's his name? The really cool guy, the really cool Spider-Man.
Oh, the
Hobby.
Yeah,
Hobby,
but yeah,
one.
Oh
him.
yeah.
Like the him. British one?
The British rocker,
yeah.
How are you cool even with the mask off?
I was always cool.
He's literally just the Sex Pistols, but as Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He is legitimately like a sex icon.
I can see the simulation behind him.
Yeah. And he's like...
Yeah, there it is.
And the way he's like, nah, I quit, and he just leaves and drops the watch. That's another thing I want. That's another thing I want to point out here. He drops the watch, right? And then Gwen suddenly has a watch from him, that was given to the dad. And it's like, if you didn't have the watch, how do you have multiple watches? Did you make it
That
yourself?
wasn't the one that they gave him. That was one
No.
that he made. Because
That was
you
one
see
he
that you
made.
see the style on it. It looked completely different. Like everyone else had the same watch that
Shiny
Miguel
gold.
had made from 928. Yeah, the white and gold.
Yeah,
His one was like very specifically his themed from his world.
And even the portals it made was very like it would change the area around the portals to be more like his style as opposed to Miguel's.
Then you tend to wonder how many of these watches has he made?
Who knows?
We have to make the assumption of at least one.
Yeah. we got to assume that he has kept one for himself and that he has that one that he gave to Gwen. Like
So
that's
at
all we
least
know.
two. Clearly. I thought that was, I guess, a neat little introduction, I think, for the beginning of the next movie, maybe.
Yeah.
With the new team coming out, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see Penny back. I love Penny so much.
Oh, Penny's so cool.
I love the upgraded robot.
Can
Can I just say it's like bigger and more like massive? It's like, yo.
I can't help look at her and then just think, you're a discount diva, aren't you?
No, the original.
Diva 2.0.
True, actually. No, you're right. Diva came out after this particular Spider-Man woman.
Potentially. I don't actually know.
And then we have Park's World, which is a little more on a little more sketchier style. A little more watercolor style. Like, I guess a little bit. What's his name? Pakir? What's his name? The
Which
Indian
world?
Spider-Man.
from Mumbatan? Is that?
Yeah, Momotone. Yeah. What's his
Pavit.
Spider-Man?
Or Pavir. It's like Pavitr. So my pronunciation could be bad, but I'm not sure if it's Pavitir or Pavit or Pavir with just like a silent T or something, but yeah.
Oh, alright. Penny Parker's first appearance was in October 2014. Let's see when
That is before
Overwatch came out.
Overwatch released in 2016.
It did?
So, yeah, so that makes it.
How do you know that off the top of your head?
Yeah, how do you know
Because he
that?
probably played it on release.
Did you?
No, I didn't. But there's a lot of things that reference it. Its release was very impactful for like the video game scene.
It was, yeah.
It's something that if you care much about like why certain types of games come out at certain time periods and like its effect on video gaming industry as a whole, then
I can
it's
tell
one
a
of those
story.
big ones to
Rykener's life, you can basically tell a complete story of based on milestones of when games came out.
I am pretty good.
It's like, hey, I got my first job when this game came out.
Just kind of flexing.
When this game came out.
Oh my god.
I hit Golden League when this game came out.
Oh, wowzers. You're playing League now. That's crazy. I would never have guessed.
Disgusting.
Actually, speaking of League quickly, Dag, can you teach me TFT at some point?
Can I teach you TFT?
Why would you want to play TFT? It's
TFT is
disgusting.
great. What are you talking
Disgusting.
about?
Bruh.
TFT is strictly a better game than League of Legends.
I want to. I still don't necessarily. I'm still on the fence about it, but I want to revisit it and see like how I feel about it in its current form. Because it's changed a lot.
Yeah, it's not RNG anymore. Well, it's still RNG,
Yes.
but it can be influenced.
Yeah. But anyway, that's off topic.
Yeah.
So that's for another time. But I just wanted to lower that.
Fair enough.
But that's completely fair because also, like, I guess you could say, how? Because the Spider-Man game came out, what, in between, when did it come out? After or before the actual first Spider-Verse?
Are we talking about the
game?
Spider-Man game or like a Spider-Man game from like PlayStation 1 era?
Oh, no,
Obviously
the...
not PlayStation 1 era.
I think it's supposed to come out on
We've had a
PS4.
lot of Spider-Man games, so
Yeah. There was the recent popular one that was sort of like everyone enjoyed it because it was like a throwback to the PS2 one that people like.
I can tell you right quick, the Miles Morales video game came out after Into the Spider-Verse, but before Across the Spider-Verse.
That's fair.
No, I meant the recent Spider-Man one.
Yeah, I'm not
Yes.
sure actually when that came. I think it was before, but you do get to see that, like, I don't know if they added it later on, if it was in there already. But all like the skin, all the spider suits from like Miles and those from Spider-Verse are in there from memory.
Ah, okay. I can't play because I have motion sickness. That's crazy. Have you guys actually played it?
Like Marvel's
so
Spider-Man, or
When you say all of the skins, does that include Penny Parker?
I don't know about that one. That would be a hard one to pull off.
like the Marvel's Spider-Man? I'm still trying to just nail which game.
Hang on. Let's see if I can. Let me get the name.
I'm not even kidding. There are a lot. So,
There are so many.
No. I'm getting it. Hang on.
I mean, would you believe that the very first Spider-Man video game came out on Atari? Back in.
Damn.
I know that because I have it.
First Spider-Man game I had was the Electro one, Spider-Man Electro. What was it?
It is Marvel Spider-Man is one we're referencing. I'm fairly certain.
Marvel Spider-Man? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spider-Man
same year.
PS4. Yeah. That's
Marvel
awesome.
Spider-Man was like the same year as Into the Spider-Verse, I'm pretty sure. They were both in 2018.
Oh, it was Enter Electro.
But yeah, Marvel's Spider-Man was very good.
I didn't play it. I haven't played one since Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro back on the PlayStation 1.
God damn.
Yeah. That's gone back.
It's gone back. Shit's
Yeah,
like 22 years old now.
I never played it, but I had seen people playing Marvel Spider-Man.
Well, that was actually like one of the things I really enjoyed about like Across the Spider-Verse actually was you could never pull this off in a live action.
No,
The
true.
CGI would be like too hard to figure out, and then also you couldn't realistically make a person do the sort of stunts and whatever. But
I mean, you could,
so-
but whether or not the person will be alive at the end of it.
yeah. But like I thought that was like the fight and action scenes. They really like pushed the limits of like what is Spider-Man capable of, which I thought was sick. Like some of the moves and fighting that was happening, it was just super slick, like crazy power moves.
Well, I mean, they had that same instance where they were
Flexibility.
booting whatever it was, booting Ramus off the railway tracks as he was on his way back to his place with the cakes. Literally just boots it. That would be so hard to make it look realistic if it were a live action.
Oh yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it would look really dumb.
Same with all the colors and the worlds, you know, like that would be too hard to do live action.
In before you actually
Yeah.
chuck it into like something like Sin City or something like that, where red is the color.
Mhm.
But I think I do have one negative with the art style I did notice. It sort of was like all positives, and it is really good. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if this is specific for me, but I noticed on multiple occasions where it
looked like a
seemed
3D movie.
like it was chugging along, like there were genuine, almost like frame rate drops in.
No, I didn't notice that.
In the movie.
I did see apparently people spoke about that, but I think from what I saw as the response was that it was actually intentional.
Yeah, that's what I thought
It
as
wasn't.
well.
It wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't designed to be highly fluided, etc. This because
This is us
because
turning
of
the
the
pages.
because of the scope of the universes, particularly with the like regular changing from one to another, and each of them having a different art style or a different, like, obviously there was a real world one and like everything else, like with all the changing, pushing the layering for filming or like stitching things over the top of one another made it really hard to keep it, I guess, like top end frame rate pushable type.
Yeah, okay.
pretty
Because I
much.
did
So
notice that it was a bit inconsistent.
Yeah, apparently
Yeah.
it was like intentionally dropped in
Okay.
that aspect. So I know exactly what you mean, but yeah, apparently that was intentionally like dropped
It's got too much information at the
in
same
effort,
time.
like in effort to the way that they were like stitching a lot of different art styles over the top of each other, and you couldn't do them flush without one looking like absolute arse compared to the other. Apparently,
it makes sense. I get that reasoning. It's just something I did notice was like some inconsistencies, even in scenes where it wasn't necessarily like that. Like
true.
There was only like I think there was a couple with just like Miles and his father, like in the house scenes, and I think towards the end as well with Miles and the uncle. Was one of the ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were a few moments.
They could be trying to do it. They would, if it's in those particular scenarios, they could be trying to make it look that way, to make it look like it's slow motion effect of a camera, to make it more of a dramatic moment. Just like,
it definitely wasn't like an artistic slowdown.
I don't think it delivers intentionally in that way.
Yeah,
either. I mean, I could see like reasoning for it, but I don't think you could like realistically do that.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, so apparently, like, people were talking about it, but just with the way, like, different art styles were conflicting and some things were more prominent than others and it wasn't really, like, playing well. Apparently, that was just intentional to have...
God, it feels like it's running at 30 frames a second as opposed to 60.
Yeah, I mean, that is actually what it sort of like what it looks like. But, yeah. I mean, it wasn't like some insane difference. It was just like noticeable chugginess, but it wasn't crazy.
It was something like I noticed as well when I was watching the first time around, and I was like, "Oh, this seems weird." I wonder if this was like intentional in the sense of because these universes, like some of them might look kind of stitchy or weird or like laggy in a sense because that's what the world is. Maybe I don't know. I was trying to figure it out at the time when I was watching it, but I was, particularly in Gwen's universe, like while she was doing the fight with the vulture, I like that's one of the spots where I sat there and I was like, this looks like it's not flowing quite the way
at least not all the time.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if that was strictly a choice or not, but yeah, it was something that I noticed on the first watch through. But yeah, like with because it was animated, I was so happy we got to kind of see like the full extent of what is a Spider-Man capable of, and I thought that was really just cool because they really kind of went crazy with some of the fight scenes. Not like Michael Bay style over the top explosions, but I mean, like, what is the human body capable of versus what is Spider-Man capable of?
Well, now I'm kind of curious to see what Michael Bay would have been capable of.
My goodness!
Now I want to see a Michael Bay Spider-Man.
Sony, if you're listening out there, can you please do that? Like a Transformers Spider-Man? Gosh.
Oh God, no! Please. If I see the next Spider-Man, like the next Spider-Verse movie, and it says directed by, and I will fly to LA and I will end him. Fly to LA and end him. Do not touch this.
With you. I want to go.
Webs. It'll be so good. It's gonna be like everything is explosive. The webs are explosive. He's gonna go invisible, and then when he pops out, he explodes. Like it's gonna be great.
There isn't a Spider-Man out there at the moment that has explosive webs, but Michael Bay says we're gonna make one.
Yes. I would love that a little bit too much.
It's gonna be Iron Spider, but like massively amped up.
Man's actually got the stature of Wolverine.
Basically, it's just the Iron Man at that point.
Bruh, that's just the Prowler.
Yeah, but he shoots webs.
Explosive webs.
Oh my goodness.
They can swing off them, and when they detach from the walls, they explode.
Stay away. Stay away.
Oh gosh.
It'd be a disaster, but it's a disaster I would watch nonetheless.
Oh fuck!
That's hilarious. I won't lie. Okay.
Moving on.
Oh Yeah, so speaking of the bombs, the post.
I am a bomb.
Oh gosh.
Bomb your podcast.
Please don't
Damn
do
it.
that. I want this to be very much alive.
Yeah, it's alive in one form or another.
So before we go into like the voice actors, what do we think about the pre-end credits?
Yeah, there was an entire movie before it.
Oh my god.
The movie was really good, by the way.
Oh my god. Because there was a lot of similar metaphors, and definitely through the reflection of the movie and its characters. And it definitely kind of sets up for a little bit of foreshadowing for the next parter. I actually kind of like how they did it. It's a little
I
bit
don't remember
different from the
specifically
others.
what part it is.
Like, is
What
this where
happens?
you have Miles showing up in the wrong universe and he has to face off with the Prowler version of himself?
Yeah, and then
those-
you get to see
like Gwen meeting Peter, like Miles tutor Peter. God, that's not very specific.
Are we looking at like the pre-credits scene, like the cliffhanger that we're supposed to be talking about?
Like,
yeah.
do we mean just like legitimately the end of the movie?
It's much easier than saying pre-credits because there's an
that's what
entire
I'm
movie
going with.
before that.
Okay, so you know how there's credits, and then we have this song where they showed a little bit of like credits, and they have the
Oh, okay,
so
right.
still
Yeah. So
images.
we're still doing credits, but
Oh.
we're
that
yeah.
pre-credits.
I won't lie. I was sitting half on my seat watching it with
Yeah.
a fierce need to go to the bathroom.
So I mean, in the credits, like, God, what you have him falling. Miles Morales is
Yeah.
Spider-Man, like kind of falling through space and time or whatever. That kind of bit.
Yeah, that bit. Yeah.
And then he's like just swinging through what looks like a Connect 4 board or something.
I
It's what it looks
don't
like.
remember it really.
Nothing from memory happens there. He kind of has like an encounter with with Spot, like the Spot. He's shadowed by a giant spider, and he kind of crashes through the ground after it like sort of lands on him. I'm trying to think of like
Anything
it.
really to say on it?
Yeah, because I didn't actively like watch and pay attention, thinking
Neither.
I was expecting something. I mean, I do know, like, obviously it has the mirrored Miles, where the one's the Prowler, one's Spider-Man, and I guess this like conflict of how he could have turned out versus how he has turned out pending the universe. But I don't really remember
Okay.
whether
So we
it
got
had some foreshadowing or not in it.
Cupid's given us, I'm assuming all of us something to watch.
Yeah.
So I guess we do a watch along at
It's
this
just
point.
the credits. I assume it's just the it's just
Yeah.
Because the actual end credits, they had, all the casting and, all the list of people that they had in that gradient. That's it. That's the credits. This is like pre-credits.
Oh God,
I don't
No, for a while. I definitely
know
left
what
before
it
the end of this.
can I
Okay.
get this actually on YouTube instead of being at like 240p?
No.
It's
I'm trying to look for one for a higher quality.
No, it's
but they're
fine.
all
We'll watch it
cams.
regardless. It's an animation. It's got a little bit of forgiveness to it.
There's not really much happening here. Like, it's sort of there's the loose thing of some Spider-Mans chasing after him.
Yeah, he falls a spot and he's just kind of falling.
And like right at the end, it's like he's mirrored up against himself. One Prowler, one Spider-Man. I'm not sure if there's anything in here that might allude to what happens in the next one. I think it's a very like good song
Artistic.
choice. I think the song choice to sort of like eclipse what you have experienced is very good.
If anything, if I were to say how this end thing's going, it's a lot of what's the struggle he was just going throughout the entire movie, where he's got he's chasing after his dad to try and save it. Like the first portion being where he was bitten by the spider. This is now the life you're in. Falling into now I'm trying to save my dad, and then after that with Miguel trying to come after him. I think it is more of like a reflection of what's happened,
or breakdown, or a reflection of like kind of what's happened so far.
That's it. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, watching it though, like you can see what I mean when I said like all I got was like he was swinging through a Connect 4 board.
Yeah.
So if I were to say how, like where I'm watching it now, it is legitimately like a reflection of or a dumbing down of what's happened throughout the entirety of the movie that we've just watched.
Yeah, more or less.
So you think it's just a reflection of the movie, essentially?
So far.
Yeah, watching it, it's hard to determine whether there's anything in here that could lead into something new. It would just be speculation, really. I don't think there's anything in here that
would lead into the next movie.
Yeah, it would imply that there's going to be 100% something guaranteed happens in this movie, other than maybe he loses his mum. That would be
the canonical event.
Oh, like instead of his father.
Well, I mean, the canonical. Fucking, what's the word?
Canonical.
Canonical event would be his father dying as what it's displayed. So the next movie should be more or less about him trying to save his dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I think, like, is there maybe something to lean into, like his mum dies as part of that as well.
That's right. I feel like there would
instead of maybe she gets in the way of something happening and she dies instead.
Yeah, I feel like that there would definitely be a plot twist. I can't imagine that the movie would sit this threateningly above us, saying your dad's gonna die, and he goes through all of this effort to try and prevent that without there being a plot twist in there that somebody else of family or friends dies instead. But given that we haven't had a whole lot to do with the rest of his friends, I mean, for all we know, it could be Gwen Stacy that dies.
Just quietly, I honestly think that would be the best way for this movie to proceed.
Yeah.
I think it would make for a more
impactful,
captivating and more impact. Yeah, as you say, like more captivating, more impactful, and like really bring a viewer into sharing in like some sort of pain or heartache after, particularly after like Across the Spider-Verse, having so much of the movie being centered around Gwen, you got like an opportunity to connect with her. So I think like,
and it was already
if she was to die as part of like his journey, man, that'd be like super intense. And
it was already technically foreshadowed in this movie already, being that Gwen has brought up in every other universe a Gwen Stacy has fallen for Spider-Man, but it never ends well.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't mean they always die, but yeah.
Nah, I mean, Miles is all about breaking the mold, sure, but I just think it would make for a more compelling story.
That's right.
If Gwen maybe sacrificed herself to save Miles' dad, as an example.
And then comes across the line, with great power comes great responsibility.
We don't need that line, but sure.
we really don't. I would want Gwen to say that.
I would hate it so much.
I really don't want it. I don't need it.
That would be
that would be so brutal for Gwen to know that. That would be insane.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Well, unless Miles decides to go on some mad power spree or something like that, and then he realizes that, oh shit, hang on, maybe I'm doing what's wrong, and then Gwen's just like, bro, you got a lot of power, but you got to know how you're responsible about it.
Honestly, that'd be the only thing I'm looking forward to is if Miles sees Gwen die and just absolutely has a massive power snap and just just starts ending lives here.
Gets to the one big bad guy and then just goes, no, Gwen wouldn't want me to do this.
I mean, could you imagine, like, Gwen dying because of Miguel and then Miles just killing Miguel?
Oh.
That would be sick.
Oh,
Like that would be so cool to see.
Yeah.
bro.
Like from a film experience point of view, that would be awesome to watch.
I
That would be something.
I don't think he would do it. It is so against what a
No, but that's-
Spider-Man is.
Exactly. If anyone's gonna do it, it's gonna be Miles.
I know it would be so rough though.
But that's why I think it would just be so sick. Is like so good to watch from a cinematic point of view. Is just Spider-Man like
Kills another
superheroes and stuff.
Spider-Man.
They don't kill people. It's like Batman
That's
doesn't
right.
kill people.
What do you mean?
Superman
Deadpool
doesn't
kills
kill Well, yeah.
Wow.
He's not a
Different
superhero.
universe,
but-
He's definitely super. He's a hero to some. Would I call him
he's not a
a
superhero.
good
that's
guy?
But yeah, like Miles, like just
But you see that in a lot of other
Falls would be
Spider-Man.
so cool.
I'd value it. I'd rate it 100%. I think it would be absolutely rough on the audience to see something that was always a person that was always against killing or unaliving people to actually do it. Like, there are Spider-Men out there that do that, but I don't think that Miles would be of the personality to actually do it. That's
Not-
where I
not
think
without
I
there
would
being
struggle.
some kind of catalyst. I think he is one though that could be like emotionally broken into doing it.
Potentially. Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I don't think his personality has the disposition to actually kill people,
No.
but from an emotional break, maybe.
Emotional, and also I think specifically solely referencing, like, if it was Miguel that did it too, especially with the events that we've seen now, like how Miguel's already sort of positioned himself as the enemy of Miles, that would be enough. I think it would need to be someone that's like already an enemy in his eyes to then do it. That would be what was needed.
I don't necessarily think that Miles thinks that Miguel is an enemy, though.
No, he 100% does.
Yeah, Miguel's
reckon-
trying to stop him from saving his father, and that is all Miles wants to do right now. Like,
Got chased up a freaking rocket that was like going through the stratosphere, trying
It
to like.
wasn't a rocket; it was a train.
wait, didn't the announcement say it was going to the moon or something?
I think so.
Yeah.
But like,
Oh,
he's
train
being
crack right now.
hunted down. Like he's actively being told, like he's not allowed to save his father. Like that's as far as I'm concerned. Like that's an enemy.
That's fair.
An enemy
I
doesn't
did-
need to be someone
actually-
who's like out to kill you. An enemy could just be someone who's out to like thwart what you want to do.
Speaking of random character personalities, I really did like the original Peter Parker's comedic humor throughout the entire 2099 Spider-Verse with his child and all that kind of drama. It's just like, no, I'm not actually.
He was great.
Yeah.
He's
He's
so
just
just
like,
like
I'm
relaxed
just
the whole
here.
time.
I got my child, babes.
Actually,
MJ's
something I
always going
wanted
to
to
be a babe.
mention earlier when you were talking about how like the emotional steps that they've taken throughout the series, and you see like Miles ends up where Gwen was like at the start of the movie, and then you have Miguel being at the far later end, and he's sort of dealing with self-acceptance and not the acceptance of the people around him.
Yeah.
Where you got the Peter with the child, and he is just all the way past all of it, and he's like, everything's fine. I've got what I
Oh,
wanted.
yeah.
Like he's dealt with the loss.
Hold
He's
my
accepted-
baby!
He's accepted himself, and he feels accepted by the people around him, and so he's like fully there.
Man's the epitome who walks into a shopping center in pajamas.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Did that earlier.
Yeah, no, he was great. I'm always a big fan of Peter B. Parker. He just comes out, he's just super carefree. He's got that crazy wit going on, just trying to have some fun with it all.
Miguel's just like, I don't want your shit here. Stop being a nuisance.
I mean, they're very like opposites.
Opposites.
But nah, it was a cool dynamic. And then, yeah, I guess as like you said, Rag, he's so far along that timeline of like things to have experienced. He's kind of, and we got to see it like in Into the Spider-Verse as well. Like he was almost in a position where he was in Miguel's shoes, if not further, but like because at that point he wasn't involved with the Spider-Man HQ, or
Yeah, not yet, at least.
yeah, he hadn't at least been involved with the Spider-Man HQ at that point. You could see just coming into I'm so done with everything now. And then Miles kind of like perks him back up and gives him the go get her, man. And then he goes and finds his Mary Jane as the kid, and it's just
Yeah, you see it at
That's
the very end of the
Has-
movie
he
where like
has
he takes the
payoff.
flowers to Gwen. I think it's Gwen. And yeah, you see him finally like reach that point at the very end of the first movie. Yeah, it's really cool.
Mary Jane, not Gwen.
Mary Jane, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was just cool to see like he actually got his payoff.
Mm.
Like the 20 years or whatever of being a
Fawning
Spider-Man,
over it.
going through like drama after drama, loss after loss, problem after problem, and then having some kid from the hood or whatever.
This 9-year-old talking like, if you want this girl, you go and get that girl.
Yeah, go get her, man. You're all right. And he's like, yeah.
Yeah, I am alright. We're gonna go and get that girl.
But I thought that was cool to see him like have kind of a payoff to all the crap that he has gone through.
Okay, I'm just imagining this 4-year-old child just like grabbing you by the ears, being like, "Go get that girl. You're better than this."
Yeah, no, I
With
definitely
none of
like.
the ideas.
So
Yeah.
do they explicitly state the time jump between the first and second movie? It has to be about like 2 to 3 years, but
Yeah, it said in the beginning it
it
was
does-
He's
like
still in
1 year
school,
and a couple of months, I think, is what it says in the narrative.
Yeah,
a couple
In a
months?
monologue, I should say.
no, it's
it has to be longer because of the child makes it longer. Because
I mean, we have to assume that. Well, I mean, we have. Are we assuming that the timelines are all running at the same time,
at the same
or
speed.
at the
at-
same
sorry, at
speed.
the speed.
Yeah,
Well, no, you can't assume that because
that's
I
right?
guess.
So it could be Peter Parker is running at like fucking 1.5% the speed of what Miles is going.
they do say what the
Oh no, Miles has been Spider-Man for a year. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
just over
So-
a year.
Yeah.
it was over. a
And
year.
Peter's child looks like it's at least 2 or 3.
Does it?
I mean, I wouldn't call it a 1-year-old.
It's only ever crawling. It could easily only be maybe 6
Yeah.
or 7 months old.
That could be fine if it's say it's 18
It
months at
talks.
most. Then the child is what 9 months old or something.
Yeah.
Wait, the
It's
child
still in
4?
diapers, so maybe at
I
max.
don't think they
Max 2.
talked. They just said
Al-
Dada, right?
Also, being
Just
born as a
sounds.
Spider-Woman probably has some kind of other change.
No, well, yeah. No, she still has the sticky abilities, but she still needs the equipment to actually, spray the white stuff everywhere.
Oh, but I mean, like in terms of like heightened senses and intelligence, because that's
Yeah.
Yeah, right, fair.
Yeah, she could easily just be like
And
aging at a
growth.
more.
shows that they all get physically stronger and bigger. Spider-Man.
I'm an early bloomer.
Yeah.
But I really liked how we get to see, let's say, Spider-Man actually does become successful in their relationship, or in a relationship, and they actually do have a kid. I have always wondered if their genetics of being a Spider-Man will pass down to their kin.
Well, now we
I
have
mean,
that.
Now we actually know! Thank God! And it's on TV, on screen. We actually have an answer. But I've always wondered that,
it'll be in the comics somewhere, probably.
I'm sure someone covered it somewhere.
somewhere.
Nah.
There's
For
so
those
much
out there who have read the
information.
comics, let me know. No, I do like the dynamic of the characters and the roles, and how how they perceive to other people, in this movie. I think that was very cool. Because that's not an easy feat to do.
It's hard to be relatable to a superhero, but some of the actions that they've had, like in terms of family members and friends and stuff like that, and some of the issues that they're having, even rather extremes that they may be with some of the villains that they have, can be, for the lack of a better word, dumbed down to something more relatable as well. Particularly with having issues with your dad or family members, for that matter, or issues with friends, or at the very least at the very end, like with the uncle and that kind of drama, where he's just trying. It's like, fuck, I haven't seen you in like a year since you died. Yo, let's hook up. Let's be friends again. But I got to get back to my universe and whatever. I think he's just I think there are some scenarios in this movie where it is very relatable.
Definitely towards the relations, really. You know, between, like, you know, the parents and the child, and just how they kind of like deal with their different issues in different ways, because not everyone is the same, you know.
Well, that's it. Like, I mean, when it comes to Gwen Stacy and her dad, I can understand it from his perspective, where he's looking at it as like, this is kind of my job. My life is my job, and not quite realizing, hang on, she's my daughter. She basically is my life. But I've been chasing after this quote unquote murderer for the better part of like the last couple of years now. I'm so close, and now that I found out that it's my daughter, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, and he kind of gives all that up, you know, his career for his daughter. And
now
we all
I've
know
had
that's
some time to think and actually come to terms of what's happening. I've basically just, since your conversation, halfway through this conversation, I've just gone, fuck this, I'm out. I quit my job.
Pretty much.
I think it does well when it comes to the human personality of just things can change at the flip of a hat.
And that's what kind of I mean by, you know, it's about these family issues and these internal relations. And then it just so happens to have superheroes in it. That was the kind of thing I was like trying to get at in the beginning. Because there was a lot of things going into this. A lot of messages.
I mean, it's kind of similar to... Well, I mean, there are other scenarios, particularly with Miles' family, where it's just like, my family is so overbearing and all this kind of drama. I love my family, but I'm now grounded for, what was it, 5 months by the end?
Yeah.
So
and he like,
I love you for 5 months now.
Yeah.
He's grounded tell him he's grounded for 5 months. Also, tell him I love him.
And, you know, throughout the movie, we see him debate about telling his family that he is Spider-Man, not telling he wants to, you know, coming out as Spider-Man. You know, he tries all these
scenario where it's just like, she's not my girlfriend, Mum.
Yeah, it's just you know, just saying the truth to his mother is a big thing to do. And when he actually finally, you know, got that in this other universe, it's like, psych, you're not my actual mom though.
It's
like,
Spider-Man is,
damn it.
There is none in that universe.
Yeah, exactly. But we see the struggles of him actually coming out to his parents. Yeah, especially coming out, you know, not just mum, but his dad as well. Just like,
well, now he's got practice.
Yeah.
True. He's had the warm-up, right?
But that takes a lot of courage.
It
takes a lot of courage, especially when we saw that with Gwen before, you know, she kind of runs away, quote unquote. Just a little bit.
I mean, we noticed something fairly similar when it came to, what was it, Far From Home?
But everyone found out?
Or
about, like, Aunt May?
Yeah, Far From Home, where Peter actually... Did he actually tell Aunt May? Aunt May knew about Peter, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, she does, yeah. Then
but
that's
she's
how...
known since the first movie, hasn't she?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Unless you meant, like, everyone towards the, you know, at the end.
No.
Then no, she knew
like that, because that was, like, part of the whole plot point of the third movie, making sure no one...
That's right.
Yeah, no, that was... She found out the ending of the first one, yeah. Homecoming.
That's right, 'cause she walked in and he was trying to get out of his suit.
Yeah, and she was like, "What the?" And then end.
True.
I would have liked to have seen how that conversation went afterwards. Clearly, she's cool about it in the second movie, though.
Mom, Happy thinks you're hot. Please ignore the fact that I'm Spider-Man.
I'm sorry, what?
Distraction.
I'm just not ready for that kind of a commitment. Honestly, though, hottest Aunt May ever, though.
Really though,
True.
Okay.
get those MILFs. I'm
Oh,
not sure if I can say
Would you
that.
prefer the one from Tobey Maguire's Aunt May?
What, no love for the biddies?
Dude, I thought you were gonna say I think it's Annie Kaz from Big Hero 6.
True, though.
Wait, who? Hang on a second.
True.
I haven't seen Big Hero 6 in so long.
Oh.
That aunt?
And they actually featured whatchamacallit in Wreck-It Ralph Breaks the Internet. There's like what was it called? Like Mums in Your Area or something? Or Single Ladies in Your Area, and you get to see this little ad as like a cameo of the aunts. Have you guys seen
Not
it?
sure.
Oh no.
I've seen it, but it's been a while since I've seen Wreck-It Ralph. Been one I've been meaning to revisit lately. I did like some of the memes that they brought in from like our real life into Spider-Man though, with that Spider-Man. Oh, you're Spider-Man. You're the imposter.
Oh yeah, that. Yeah, I
That was
love the
probably
amount of
the-
references.
Yeah.
Anytime there's a bunch of Spider-Mans on the screen all pointing at each other,
You?
is
You?
great.
I just think it's value.
That was funny.
It's a cheap laugh, but I will laugh every single time.
Because it's not, because when they did all these references, you know, it's not in your face kind of thing. It's very, very tasteful.
I think if there was any opportunity in any movie, and I'm happy they didn't do it in No Way Home. I'm very happy they did it in this one, though. I think there was a golden opportunity that if they didn't do it, it was missed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was the perfect like setup for what happened for the meme.
Mm-mm-mm.
So.
And
That
then
is
going
actually
into the
so
whole
good,
entire
holy shit.
chase. And that kind of brought in the whole entire chase, and that was brilliant. Can we just talk about the chase for a second? Can we?
So yeah,
How crazy is that?
Spider-Man.
Oh, you're not actually aware of T-Rex Spider-Man?
No, I have no
How are you
idea.
not
I've
aware?
never
Oh my
seen
God.
Oh man, it's
T-Rex Spider-Man's so good.
It's
So-
so cool.
Is it like an alternate universe where the dinosaurs never went extinct, but because of the timelines, there still has to be a Spider-Man, so now it's a T-Rex? Like...
So kind of actually. It's like a prehistoric Earth where it's effectively Neanderthals never sort of advanced to a point, and dinosaurs kind of retained their appearance, and then they ended up just developing to a point where they were the ones that had like the intelligence and everything else.
Sure, okay.
So I mean, Norman Osborn, all that sort of stuff. Like they actually had names for each other.
History still played out as it was meant to, just with dinosaurs instead.
Yeah, one of the, I guess T-Rex Spider-Man's like lackey things was a pteranodon known as Peter Parker, but it was like P-T-E-R and P-T-A-R-K-E-R. So like with the pteranodon being P-T-E, etc.
I'm kind of interested to see, like, I mean, you've got the dinosaur Peter Parker, but what would the Dr. Octopus of dinosaurs look like?
Who knows?
Probably an
I haven't.
actual octopus.
Yeah, I haven't delved that deep into it, but yeah, he's popped up a few times.
Would it be like the short arms, like his like front arms, or would it be like long arms, like his legs?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But yeah, there's some wild Spider-Mans out there. But yeah, Spider-X.
Man Spider.
Spider-X is great.
It was good to see that they
Peter-
didn't bring
Peter
Man Spider into it, though.
Peter Parker, but without the P, like without the letter after the P. So dumb. So dumb.
But so good.
Yeah, I love it.
Also, can I
Anyway.
just ask, how come the burgers are blue? Is it just because they just decided to dye the buns blue? Like,
Oh, maybe it's a different kind of wheat.
Yeah, who knows? It could be a variety of reasons. You could make blue buns. Here. I just don't know why you would.
I live with permanent blue balls, so why not blue buns?
What the fuck?
Too much? Too much?
not enough.
I need more blue balls? Fuck. Alright.
I mean, it kind of like leans back to like what I mentioned before, though, with how the action / fight scenes, the way, because of the style of animation, it's so easy for them to like really do some cool stuff with it. And the chase is no different. Like the chase just had so many slick moves, so many cool little interactions. All the different characters kind of just appearing out of nowhere, and they each sort of use their own unique spider powers in a way as well. So being able to
Cat's easily the best.
display that and like capture it all was really cool. The chase was sweet though.
Especially having the, just a little neat details about the comic sounds, like T-Whip and the whiplash and the pow. I think that's a nice touch, for some of the characters. Not for all of them, obviously. But at least the ones that has a little bit more nostalgia, a little more vintage feel to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
Like how they did that in the first Spider-Verse movie. How they have a little bit of that in there, but this is a little bit more clear. I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just pure gold. I would watch that chase again and again. Just have that on repeat.
I mean, we will. The moment it comes out, we're watching it again.
Oh yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. And by the time the second part of rocks up, I'm just gonna marathon all the Spider-Man.
Oh, for sure. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, third one comes around, we're going to be watching the first two before we go and see the third one.
Yes.
But I think it had a lot of moments in it where, particularly in the chase scene, is what we're talking about, where they could have some of the tropes in different genres and just kind of jam it all into one.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was a lot of fun to see. It was just like, in places in any other animated movie or any other Spider-Man where they wouldn't fit, it was just like, let's see if we can try and jam in as many memes as we possibly can to try and make this fight scene or this chase scene as entertaining as possible.
Pretty much. And that kind of dives into how they swing or how they, walk as a character, because that's pretty important. And then it kind of like just ties everything together, their individuality as their own Spider-Mans.
Oh, 100%. Like, some of the stuff that they do in this chase scene isn't possible in live action.
No way. I just love how creative they got it,
And we're talking about the music, right? Like, the music in this movie was absolutely insane. Whenever there was a moment where it was just like, needed a little bit more emphasis, where they do the thing. And
yeah.
I honestly think that was one of the coolest sound effects, which captured me right at the start of the movie.
Speaking of that sound effects, I'll do wee part. When I first heard Miguel's, I instantly thought of the Prowlers character inserts theme song, I guess. And I was just like thinking of like how similar that is to each other.
True. Right, I gotta stop watching that so I can actually pay attention to the conversation.
Because it's not, I know it's not exactly the same, but the vibe that it gives off of, having the villainy vibe, and this is what we kind of like been talking about, how Miguel is perceived to be someone antagonist in this. If it had a different kind of tune for it, it wouldn't be as crass or as dark for this kind of film. This kind of movie.
He's a person who's lived through a lot, so he's got a lot of trauma in his life. He's not necessarily trying to save a particular Spider-Man from any particular thing. He's like kind of like the watcher and making sure that things play out as they should. So he's trying to be this overbearing figure of making sure that the timelines meet to make sure that every Spider-Man is created the way that canon. I keep fucking up this word. Is supposed to turn out the way that they are meant to turn out, as the Spider-Man stories are supposed to turn out.
Oh, the canon.
Yes. I'm just going to avoid that word. I'm just going to make longer and longer sentences to try and explain it, as opposed to trying to say the one word that I just keep fucking up.
Canon.
Canonically.
Chronically?
Chronically is time.
Okay.
Canonically is more
chronologically is time.
That's the one. Whatever.
Chronologically.
Chronically is.
We have a lot of words. We're using a lot of big words.
Yeah. So many similar words.
What do you mean go back to school? It's my mouth fucking it up. It's just like I want to go in all these kind of weird things to make ears pleasurable in, saying the correct words.
You want to make the ears pleasurable?
You stop that right now.
Okay, sorry. I had to. That was an opening and I went for it.
Did you?
Yeah,
You know what comes from it. I've been holding back.
We don't want to know. Stop that.
Remember, this is PG somewhat.
And I want you to know that I've been holding back.
Oh, good. Thank you. This is what we want. Holding back. Thank you. You have some
I'll
restraint.
hold you back.
No.
I'll restrain you.
Can I have a restraining order, please?
Yeah. Fair.
I order you to be restrained.
I know a lawyer. Hang on.
I need to call up my lawyer for a second. Hang on, guys.
I am your lawyer.
Oh no.
An hour and a half podcast turns into like 6 hours because it's just these two. Jesus.
No. It would not be 6 hours. That's crazy. I was crazy once. I was locked in a room. Sorry.
No, everybody's crazy. Just to what degree?
So, just moving on from, I guess, to our next segment. Thoughts about the voice actors. Did they carry their character well or not? Any ad-libs the voice actors put in? And pretty much just discussing about the actors' thoughts on the characters, if any.
I think they're doing really well, honestly. As far as most other animated Spider-Mans, where it's felt like, we got to produce this like once a week. We got to keep coming up with episodes, so it's not rushed or forced or anything like that. Where they've actually in this movie taken the time to really flesh out their characters in terms of where they need to be in terms of vocally to express the emotions of what this particular character is saying at the time or feeling at the time. I think they're really taking on the characters as their own and really making it work well for them, and I think it'll be a good thing to put on their resume at the end of the day when they're just like, oh, I'm applying for a job. Hey, I was this guy. Yeah, you did really well for that voice acting.
I get the feeling they already have resumes to be on the movie.
Yeah, I think
I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that, but it's another thing that they can add. But I think that they're really making these characters their own.
I mean, yeah, I have no complaints about any of the voice acting that I can think of. I think they've all done their part really well. I don't really know what else to say on it though. I think they nailed it though.
In terms of the main actors, like your Miles, your Miguel, your Gwen, your Peter Parker, in terms of the main characters, I think they're doing really well. I think they're keeping the side characters as basic as possible, as to not detract from the main characters.
I was really doing a good job, even with making the side characters really unique.
Yeah. At the very least, I don't think that they're actually so. There wasn't a voice actor that I noticed that felt out of place.
Unless it was intentionally meant to, like some of the unique the voices are, but yeah,
like Spot. Spot was pretty unique.
I don't mean like say the British Spider-Man or
Hobby.
Yeah, Hobby. or Peter from Moombahton, Pavita or something, whatever it was.
Yeah, Pavita. Voiced by Karan Soni, and who's done a bunch of stuff that I actually really like. But him, so the character of Pavita and then Miles had my favorite line, or I guess back and forth dialogue in the movie. Just those two, because they had the whole. During the initial introductions, and they're sitting there, and Miles first meets him, and they go and have tea, and Miles hits him with the "I love chai tea."
Yeah.
You like
What
tea?
did you say? Chai tea. Chai tea means tea, bro. Chai means tea, bro. What are you talking about? You don't say you want tea or coffee. That was my favorite set of dialogue from the movie.
I especially loved it.
Good.
Can I just add to
the
that?
earlier scene where he does that to Spot over the ATM, because he calls it the ATM machine, and he's like, "You realize I'm an ATM machine?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry,
That was really
Cupid.
good.
What did you want to add?
Sorry, can I just add to that Kran's voice acting? Apparently, this is what I heard, that he was actually quite nervous of playing Pav. So when the directors, they were saying, "Oh, you can play it however you want," kind of ad-lib it. Apparently, that chai tea and the naan bread was meant to be ad-lib across a few other things, so it felt very natural, very comedic.
Oh,
It was
so
definitely
comedic.
Writing that he sort of put into it himself, just as out of a comfort thing or whatever.
Yeah, pretty much, because he was
Okay.
yeah, and he was some always say that he was actually quite nervous, so when they gave him that extra creativity, that extra freedom to put in whatever he wants in it, it played out quite naturally.
Yeah, I mean, considering
No, 100%, yeah, I think it paid off,
a
yeah.
couple of I think he's really good. I actually thoroughly enjoy him in pretty much everything he comes up in, because people might not realize this, but he's the Pinder in Deadpool. So the taxi driver.
Yeah.
Deadpool's
Yeah,
taxi
yeah.
driver.
Nice.
Oh.
Yeah.
And as Ryan Reynolds has made statements for, all of the interactions between Deadpool and Dopinder have no script.
Nice.
They literally just get in the car and say,
Yeah.
"Okay, so this is the circumstances of why Deadpool's in the taxi," and then they just talk.
Suddenly, all of a sudden, there's a body in the back of the car.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm a huge fan. I actually really like him in pretty much everything he's done, and I thought he was very enjoyable as Pav in Across the Universe.
Yeah, if you
He's
have
enjoyable to listen to.
if you have the definition of a improv actor, his face will be right next to it. Because he just play it off so naturally, and instead of how some improv scenarios you could be really stiff and you don't really know what to say or do, he kind of just treats it like any other realistic scene in his life. Just I'm just going to play off of how I'm feeling. Cool. I just so happened to be filmed. It just doesn't.
There have been
It's
some really
whoa.
cool improv actors over the last couple of years, even the last decade, even. Like, Heath Ledger's Joker was just insane when it comes to improv. Even like the real subtle things, just clapping in a jail cell, was enough to be improv to make that scene perfect.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that's just good acting. Like, but yeah, no, specifically for Across the Spider-Verse, I think for the most part, I think all the voice actors did a really good job for their respective roles. Oscar Isaac was obviously coming across as this very, very imposing figure for Miguel. What's his name? The voice actor for Hobby. I'd have to look up his name. I don't know.
I'm looking it up now.
But like Hobby, he really just gave you that out there rebel, like cares but doesn't display that caring nature, I guess, so much in the way that he talks or is pronounced with his interactions. But I thought he was really good just portraying that kind of like British punk rocker that came across quite well. Jake Johnson's an awesome Peter Parker, and just like the lines he was delivering, particularly like talking about his baby and like, hey, do you want to hold the baby? Hey,
Daniel Kaluuya was Hobby.
That first chase, you take a photo and Miguel just like fucking flies away.
Yeah. So that it just comes across as they enjoyed themselves. That's I think the best way I'm going to describe it is I feel like the voice actors all really like just got in there, did their lines, but they like really enjoyed themselves.
And I've always been a big fan of Jake Johnson, who played Peter B. Parker, like in different films where he just doesn't seem confident, but always is confident in what he's doing. It's really weird to watch him work. I think he's a great actor, honestly.
Yeah. No, I agree. I like Jake Johnson. Like he has a very specific role to play. Like he is a comedic actor, but I think he does really well. So, and yeah, I think everyone did well. Like Haley Steinfeld was awesome. Shamik was really good. Really portrayed a lot of emotion in his voicing of Miles, and it helps to engage the audience when there's an air of it's not method acting, because that would be incorrect. But like when they kind of sit there and they're probably watching the animation in front of them and getting ready for their lines and stuff, they're probably like feeling it. They're probably really feeling like what's being shown to them on screen and what's being transposed. And I think everyone does a really good job. I don't think anyone stands out as being bad. But yeah, no. Voice acting was great.
Yeah, really enjoyed it. Didn't really pick anything to really be negative about. On the first watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the only one I could probably like maybe poke some holes in was the urgency in some of Haley's lines when it came to trying to find Peter or
Haley being Gwen Stacy,
like, going out, going out like when everyone's kind of chasing down Miles, going after, like there didn't seem to be like any urgency in her voice, I guess, like, which isn't like a super big gripe. It was just maybe that's something that they lent into, her not necessarily having admitted to herself whether she loves Miles or not, or how that relationship's even going to go.
How committed she was.
Yeah, maybe she wasn't
canon.
like, yeah, with all the canon events and stuff. It was like knowing that Miles is an anomaly. It's like how
she's got such a massive dynamic behind her, and how she is supposed to play this character with the knowledge of how
it's
much
hard
behind
to
it.
it's hard to say how she should voice that particular portion of the film. So to me, as I said, it felt like maybe there should have been a bit more urgency, like really going after it as like, nah, I got to save Miles, but
or at the very least keep him from fucking shit up.
I think for this particular, I guess, moment in time for Gwen, whilst there isn't much urgency, she definitely has the urgent feel towards the end of the movie for sure.
Yeah, no, as I said, it was just that
it's
one.
Just a lot of conflicts.
Portion.
Yeah, a lot of conflicts going within her.
Yeah.
And then we see this back and forth.
It's
like, will they, won't be, kind of thing. Yeah.
But yeah,
she clearly wants what's best for Miles either way.
Yeah, but just particularly for that like chase portion where they're kind of going after him when he's playing HQ. Like, yeah, could have maybe done a little bit more there, but that's super minute. So I'm not. Otherwise, I think everyone was pretty good.
Yeah, I think they did everything quite well. I was definitely convinced. It was like, whoa. I don't really know any other way to put it. It was like, you were just there looking at someone's story, someone's life story. It wasn't just a movie for me.
It's almost like you were there.
Nah, that's crazy. Biography? Nah, that's crazy. Yeah. Okay, so moving on. What did we like about Across the Universe? I know we talked about a lot of it.
We've said so much already.
But is there anything that point out to you? You know, the storyline, the characters, the art style, definitely from a technical standpoint. You know,
technical standpoint.
Technical.
What?
Technical standpoints. Tentacles. Octopus. Hello.
No. Let's not bring your hobbies into this.
Oh wait, hang on. PG. Killing it PG.
I just think like particular shared feelings, like some of the more like interpersonal moments between characters. So Gwen with her father on the like fallout of arrest me, etc. Blah blah blah. Like when she comes home for that brief period.
That was nice.
The scene where Miles and Gwen sort of flicking through the city and they're on, for lack of a better way to describe it, a date. Even it's not a date, it's a date. Let's be real.
Spiderman grounded.
And they end up on like the tower, and there's the scene with like the upside down sun setting, and they're like kind of hanging from the underside of the section of that tower.
Speaking of which, do they have hairs on their ass to like grip to that, or? I mean, we saw Gwen like pull herself down with her webs, but Miles didn't do that.
I don't know what you're getting at, but I'll finish my point. But all those more one-on-one, interpersonal, direct feelings matter scenes, they were just in general across the movie. They were definitely my high points. I thought it made just for really good viewing. So.
I'm always a big story person. I generally don't like anything that's fairly episodic or feels disconnected. So I really like the way that the story flowed. In terms of where it went from point A to point B to point C, etc., in terms of like where it all starts off fairly small, such as like the dinner party or the birthday party or the congratulations party, was it? Of his father becoming captain, and then moving on to bigger things that slowly gets itself into, hey, your dad's gonna die, to make everything canon. I think the way that they portrayed the story and its flow was fairly enjoyable to watch and sit through, and easy to follow.
Yeah, I'd certainly say that my highlights for it would like big points, but the the character writing and the story writing are both phenomenal. Yeah, I did love the way they've got the characters interacting, like Solvy mentioned. Yeah.
For me, I've already mentioned this to Alice, but I like how stimulating it is.
God damn it.
Oh, you know that I was going to bring that up.
I already hinted to that earlier, and I was really not hoping that this was actually going to be a plot point for you.
Oh, plot point! What?
I really like Hobbs. He's really stimulating.
Dude, okay, Hobby is a sex symbol. You don't touch that, maybe.
I would touch that all over the place. He could swing me from every web around town.
No, that's not what I meant by how stimulating it is. Because, Jesus. Get it together, man.
You get it together. You're the one that's thinking that things are not PG. I'm the one thinking that man's hot.
No, but I just love how everything has been executed, both like in the messages and the storylines and the art style, because that is hard to pull off correctly. And when I say correctly, I mean it doesn't feel all over the place. No, this feels very intertwined. It feels very
it has good flow.
Yeah, but it's a little bit more
Not
than
like
that.
Your
It's no, but it feels like a little bit more than that. It feels like how should I say? No, I'm trying to think of the word. What is it?
It's alright, we'll wait.
Like everything has its place. Nothing felt out of place. Everything took very much tender love and care. If you would have,
everything felt like it had purpose.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like, this is going to be a really bad analogy, but it's like dancing. When someone dances, every part of your body moves. No part of your body stays still, or no part of your body is,
no movement is wasted.
Exactly. They made it to its max and then reached its limits a little bit more further. They tried it out with the Spider-Verse, and they just injected with a whole lot of steroids. And it was just, because I'm an animator, I animate things, I make a storytelling, entertainment. From a writing point of view, it's I don't know, there was just no words for it. It was just breathtaking. And that's all I can really say. Just everything was almost perfect.
But I'm not there.
Oh, God. You're not in the movie for a reason.
Every time you say shit like that, I feel like I've literally just wasted like the last 2.5 hours.
Legitimately, though.
It is so cringe to the point where it's just like, if the opportunity was there. I can't hold back. I'm sorry.
No, but I do like how everything just went. From a...
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is fairly on par with what I'm saying in regards to that everything had flow. It wasn't wasted. There's a whole lot of... there wasn't like, what do they call it? Not white noise. Radio stations do it when they don't speak. It's called... is it black noise?
I'm not quite sure. Let's look it up.
I don't know.
Because if they leave a whole space open where there's no music, there's no talking, it is classified as a specific thing. It didn't feel like it had that specific thing. There wasn't a moment in the movie where I felt like, cool, I'm here. What's going on? What are we waiting for? There's nothing going on.
Alright, so the definition of black noise is the absence of sound itself.
Which would be what a radio
Just
station does
blank.
if there is absolutely nothing.
Just
So
blank.
it didn't feel like it had black noise.
Mm-mm-mm. Yeah, especially, you know, both visually and just audio engineering.
That's it. There was
It's-
always something nice to look at. There was always something interesting. There was always something to listen to. There was never anything that wasn't unappealing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say on that though,
Yeah.
I think the one thing that the first movie did better than the second was the art detail. I think the first movie actually did detail better.
I
Like,
think they
in the
had a
final.
little bit more to fight for this movie. Is that the detail in the first movie didn't have to try and contend with different art styles and getting other layers in, like real people and stuff like that. I think they had to pay a little bit more attention to making that all work. So
Outside of
I
the
gotta kind of
characters, yes.
forgive them for that.
But anyway, but on the technical standpoint of, you know, as an the act of animating, I think they definitely did a one up from the first one. Not so, like,
Yes.
yeah, in details for sure, but we get to explore. Like, this is more like an exploration movie. This was meant to be the setup for the second part.
Yeah, the first movie was definitely an introduction to Miles and his particular world and how he got his powers and all that kind of etc. The second movie is definitely more of like a introduction to the multiverse and then a setup for the third movie, which will inevitably come to a head.
I mean, that's a little different because that's story detail, not art detail.
Yes.
But anyway.
Yeah. Not only that, the first movie was just an experiment altogether. They weren't even sure how well it's going to be perceived.
Very
when
well,
it,
apparently.
when it went well, they were like, "Oh damn, okay, let's try this again, but with more things. let's how far we can take this. Let's see how far we can take it. Essentially." So I do really like their confidence. I guess. So, on the hardest part of the podcast, what didn't we like about the movie? Was there anything that we didn't like? I have one little nitpick. And it's not about Miguel. You know how in the last movie, at the ending of the last movie, we see Miles and we just see his white shirt that he has on?
Yeah.
And then we see the portal coming through, and we see that in the little teaser preview kind of thing. That he's just having a white shirt. But in the actual movie itself, he has another shirt over the top, over the white.
Thing?
Yeah, we are. Just visually. I'm sorry. I know it's meant to pick up where it's left off, but if you're gonna do that, why does he have another shirt on? It feels slightly out of place. Like I said, it's just a little bit of a nitpick.
That could be a creator design in the difference between, like, it was too difficult or it was too jarring in the second movie to follow it through up to that moment.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, it could have been a lot worse. It could have been like Monsters Inc., but I'm just saying, it's just a little nitpick.
There aren't too many difficult things that I don't like about this movie. There are a couple of moments where a couple of characters seemed a little too out of place in terms of animation. But it's difficult for me to say that it's actually bad, given that it's... I'm a little forgiving when it comes to animation, when it comes to trying to add things when it isn't in a place where it should be. Like, if it is, like, let's say we bring the PlayStation 1 Spider-Man into this movie, it is always going to look jarring. But aside from that, I think I'm I'd have to watch it a second time or a third time to really pick out what I didn't like.
Yeah, I feel that. I think my only complaint still stands as like the frame dropping that I saw throughout the movie, or what it seemed like. It's not really frame dropping, but like where it just couldn't quite keep up the visual quality or smoothness. Which as so whenever it's not a big flaw or anything, but it's something I noticed. It is a really good movie. It's hard to like nitpick things that are bad. It's like that's how good it is. Fair. That's probably my biggest gripe.
Yeah.
My biggest gripe is I didn't have enough to pick up on. Hang on. Let's call up Cinema Sins real quick.
Yeah, true. Citizens probably get something we can't. But
on that note, sorry. You're saying sorry.
But I don't think I go as far as so we'd say it's my favorite MCU movie though. I think at the moment Guardians 3 is going to hold that.
Ooh.
But
I don't know.
No, I'd still put in Across the Spider-Verse above Guardians 3. I thought Guardians 3 was good, but my disposition leans a little closer to the animation side.
Okay.
It's hard for me to appreciate like a good story is always a good story, but when you put the amount of effort into the animation, the sound quality, the coloration, and all that kind of drama into what Spider-Verse has, it's hard for me to not appreciate that over what Guardians 3 has.
It's also hard because there are two very different movies as well.
Oh yeah, they are very different. But if we're gonna like, I definitely put it up there though. It's certainly in my favorites, for sure though. And it's definitely one of my favorites.
Sorry for cutting you off there, Solvy. What were you gonna say?
Nah, that's all good. I was more just like loosely gonna lean into this is my favorite Marvel movie. Like for me, because I'm an avid moviegoer. I love cinema. Like I'll watch every freaking movie that comes out at a cinema just because
it feels good.
I just enjoy the experience, and I get a lot of time to talk to people who are like in the know. And so, from a filmmaking point of view, as a piece of animation, this is probably the best thing I've ever seen. For that reason, it's not the best animation I've ever seen.
I was gonna make a comparison, but I'll wait till you finish.
Yeah, I'll take that back. But as far as like MCU goes, it's the best like animated product I've seen. It's got like some of the most compelling characters. It's the ability they've lent very heavily into. Some people will see this as a negative. I see it as a positive because it is a multiverse. Like a multiverse-centric thing where anything is possible almost. I like the way that they delve and explore into a lot of these different things, and they get to like sit there and kind of flex their creativity for each very specific thing. And as I've already alluded to, like the use of color was phenomenal. I thought it was great. My only real complaint could be made would be the pacing wasn't particularly good. Not saying that it was, going back to what you were saying before, Alice, with the whole nothing felt wasted, etc. Like I don't think anything was necessarily wasted. There was always things happening in a way, but the pacing of the actual main story itself was quite sporadic, which leads into my other gripe, which is not really having a concerted villain, I guess.
Right. So we've got
you briefly have Spot, but and you think he's dealt with, but he's not. And therefore he's still relevant. But then he has to have the conflict with his father about like being around and not, etc. And then he has the issues with Miguel, and then like right at the end we see he's very much going to have an issue with himself as
So would you
the
say that
Prowler.
Miles's main villain was himself from the beginning, like his personality in terms of what he's struggling with, his indecisiveness was his issue?
probably, but that's just not a very. It just doesn't. It's not to the point though where I felt like it would have been nice to have just a prominent villain that was just you. This is the bad guy. You know he's the bad guy. These are the reasons why he's the bad guy. This is how we're eventually going to get to a point where he's dealt with. Dealing with them doesn't necessarily mean they have to die, because I like recurring villains, which is something that Marvel does
Really
particularly in comics and some of their animated TV shows extremely well. Like anyone who's watched original Spider-Man animated series would be able to sit there and be like, yeah, he's the friendly neighborhood hero who like deals with Doc Ock every second week or whatever. It's like
something that they did in No Way
the
Home really
Goblin's
well.
got some game plan this month that he has to deal with. It's like I actually really like recurring villains in that sense, but for something like Across the Spider-Verse, I feel like it would have been better to have a more serious villain from the get-go that was just kind of like shadowed along. So even if he wasn't going to be the focus, to have him at least shadowed along and be there knowing that he was going to be dealt with, I think would have felt better.
Yeah,
So
with having Spot as the overall villain of this two-part series,
I couldn't take
it
him
wasn't
seriously.
yeah, that's right. He wasn't
Like,
prominent.
yeah.
Miguel was brought up to be the main antagonist. Spot will be the main antagonist of the next movie, but he's not there.
I'm not even convinced he'll be the main antagonist for the next movie. I think
So,
based on what we've seen, he might just like we'll like loosely clip to him in what he's cooking up, and then we'll deal with like the Miles v. Miles stuff, and then look, here's
and then it could end up
Miguel.
being
So now
Miguel
we've got to
being
get the like.
antagonist.
Then now we've got to like deal with Miguel and make sure that he's actually going to be a good guy and not a jerk off.
Yeah,
and
right.
then we deal with Spot. Like that's
After
what
we've
I
all
feel.
created
Yeah.
a team.
Yeah, which I think is probably the way that it plays out. But at the same time, again,
Yeah.
that still doesn't feel good, does it? Because it means our overarching thing, like the main reason why this is movies happening, this story's being told, it just felt very sporadic.
It felt on your plot point there. It feels very much like this trilogy is just the introduction to who Miles is.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, I think if this was, I mean, it wouldn't happen, and heaven forbid it ever happened. But if this was like a 4.5-hour movie, and we had the inevitable like just payoff, and it wasn't going to be split, like having one half of it alone is probably why it feels bad.
Yeah. That where it cut off, that cliffhanger was honestly the harshest thing. Like they couldn't leave us in a place where we felt satisfied with the movie. Like Rykener was saying, it did feel like an episode that just finished as a cliffhanger. And now we've got to wait the next year, 2 years to wait for the next movie to come out for us to have a satisfied ending.
Yeah, well, it just doesn't feel like it holds up on its own, in a way.
No. That's definitely going to be one of those moments where,
which is why I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's my favorite Marvel film, but just not because of the story, like the main story.
I think the story will feel strong once that third movie comes out.
Yeah. Once we get the next part and like we have the conclusions to all these things and all these like these main plot points and questions that have been like risen, I'm sure it will feel a lot better. But at least for now, it doesn't. It feels like it just doesn't stand alone.
It shouldn't be. Yeah, it shouldn't be viewed as a standalone movie.
Yeah.
That's for
So
sure.
I think
It's not.
anyone who's gonna like down the line like watch this, or if they've already seen it, and they could be sitting there feeling the same way I am, where it just feels like I just wish we had some payoff.
Yeah,
I wish
it doesn't-
something happened. The main story. I wish something with the main story just actually happened.
Now that you've said that, that is definitely one of my biggest gripes. Is that I don't feel like I've gotten a payoff in this movie.
Yeah. So
I
I
don't
for
feel
now, I
satisfied.
just feel left wanting, and no one wants to feel left wanting. Doesn't matter what it is.
In a way,
Not
it really
sad.
reminds me of watching the first half of Higurashi.
It's true.
Oh, God.
True.
There's so much left out. There's so much information we need. What is going on?
And it could double down because Higurashi also is my all-time favorite anime, and it only became that because of like the first. If I had only watched the first half, I wouldn't have called it a favorite anime. I definitely wasn't. But once he got to the very end, I was like, that was incredible.
Yeah. So I as I said, if this was like a 4.5 hour movie and you just had all of it, I've sat through worse things. Let's put it that way. I would be more than happy to sit through 4.5 hours of like this awesome artwork, this good voice acting, this like cool fucking characters, and like some of the dialogue that happens between them, and some of these like worlds that get explored, and like the overarching Spider-Verse stuff. Man, if we can explore all of that over the course of 4.5 hours and actually have payoff, man, it will feel good.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. I would marathon that. Like, I don't even really care if it would just be like, we're doing a 4.5 hour movie in the cinemas. We're going to pause it halfway so that way people can go for a toilet break. But if you're not back in like 15 minutes, we're starting this movie up again.
Yeah. So, yeah, as I said, love the movie. My favorite Marvel movie at the moment. Just not because of the main story. is basically... Which I'm sure will change once I get the next half. I'm sure that will change once I get the rest of it. But just for
the
now,
second movie is no longer my favorite. The third movie is now my favorite because of the second movie.
Yeah, probably. But for now, I just feel left wanting. It's not a good feeling. I just want some payoff.
I remember when I came out of the cinema after watching it, I basically turned around to Cupid and was just like, what the fuck was that ending?
Yeah, because the whole entire point of this movie is to be a setup, because again, this is meant to be a two-parter. What I don't understand is I kind of understand why Sony took off part one, but it should still be there to give a little more clarity. But the whole entire
one of the things that I had issues with Infinity Wars is that the whole movie was Infinity War was supposed to be such this massive thing in the comics. But to name the first movie as Infinity Wars, we had this idea that this overall story would be massive, just an absolutely massive movie. But it wasn't until Endgame that we actually ended up with the story that we actually wanted. So we had the Infinity Wars as this huge setup story for what Infinity Wars would become. For what Endgame would become. And it was just Infinity Wars didn't feel good. I don't like watching Infinity Wars. I do enjoy watching Endgame.
Because it had, as Solvy was saying, the payoff was there.
That's right. I already know what Infinity Wars is. I know it's already a setup. I know there isn't a huge... It's a big story to tell me what's to come in Endgame. But realistically, you could watch Endgame with the knowledge that Infinity Wars already happened. You couldn't really watch one without the other.
I mean, the only thing that Infinity War, just using this as the example because you've brought it up, it at least has some major the main story at least has a major plot point, aka the snap. Yeah. So without the snap, imagine watching Infinity War imagine watching that movie and they sit there, they fight Thanos, blah 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 blah, but then he gets away, but he doesn't get away with the gauntlet or something.
But realistically, you could watch the last half an hour of Infinity War and still understand, more or less understand.
Yeah, no, but like, just that's my point is, like, imagine watching that movie and not having the snap.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
how
I totally agree.
fucking shit would it be?
100%. If it had finished half an hour earlier, that would have been a horrible movie. So now that we've got...
But that's what Across the Universe is kind of doing for me, basically, at the moment.
Basically, yeah.
Sick movie, but I don't have my major plot point to rest on. I can't sit... There's no, like, major laurels for me to be like, yeah, there was... Using Infinity War, there was the snap. Like, I don't have that to sit there and be like, fuck,
What's going to happen
so
next?
keen to see how this goes.
We don't have something to sit on for the next...
what I have to sit on is we're already in a multiverse world and there's another Miles who was a bad guy. Don't get me wrong. Cool. Want to see how it plays out. But it's not like... It's not the snap. It's not like, holy shit.
Like, I can't wait for the next movie. This is going to be fucking amazing when it comes out. We've got sitting here looking at a mirror image going, all right, cool. What are we doing?
Yeah. But I like, man, you can use like the Lord of the Rings movies as ways to have multi-part films that actually have like good conclusions and like have some payoff and like feel good to go from one to the next.
That's right. The way that's honestly, it looks like Solvy and I are on the same page on this one. Our biggest gripe is the fact that it hasn't left us with an excitement for the next movie. It is like, we're going to watch it because we want to know what happens, but it's not a moment where
like every week. Every single week from now till the time I see it, I'm not going to sit there and just at least once a week go, oh man, I still can't believe that happened. Oh man, I'm so keen to see how this plays out. Blah, blah, blah.
This is such a massive cliffhanger in terms of this could happen. Fucking holy shit, the snap happened. How are they going to fix that? We've got this Miles who's now in his other universe sitting across from himself going, I'm in a really shit spot. I have no idea how to fix this.
I mean, what would be hilarious to happen would be if Miles dies and Prowler Miles becomes Spider-Man.
Hold
on, let's just go crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
he's like,
they give us so
man.
many. Essentially, they give us so many options that we don't. They give us so many options that we don't know what to do with. There isn't enough information to get an idea of what's going to happen next movie, purely because they've just kind of dumped us in this one place. If we would determine it like a spider web, you've got this spider web all coming to this one point, and then it just spreads from that one point to any possibility that could happen. I think the biggest issue I've got is that I've got so many options of how many ways this could go, but I just cannot fathom which way it'll go.
Can I just interject here?
Yeah, go for it.
No, I see what you guys are saying, and I definitely agree. But the way that they ended it, like throughout the movie, you guys seen, the comics, throwing down, and we get to see all these arcs and these scenes. Do you guys remember that throughout the movie?
Yes.
It's kind of like how they set up like an actual comic. When you read a comic, you read a chapter that it kind of ends abruptly, and then you go to the next chapter and it kind of takes up from there. It kind of feels like they've taken that sort of setup for how they ended this particular scene, because I have a feeling that in the next movie they're going to come out with, what was it called? The World or Miles Meets Miles or something, and they're just going to continue from that. Like, how would you read a comic? I read a lot of comics, I read a lot of mangas.
So do I.
Yeah, I think I'm just a little bit
In a
No.
normal standpoint, I would totally
as
be
I
cool
said,
with that if
yeah.
it were week for week. But because this is
So-
between a movie that is going to span the next
Yeah, for
year,
me,
2
like
years,
it's not even
Yeah.
hard to live on.
for me, it's not strictly that. Like as I said, like the main story, not having like a strict like villain or like not having like this main thing going on. Like there's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
a lot of little offshoots that we're exploring. Like it just leaves me wanting, as I said. Like it's not that it's bad, because obviously it's not, and I've already made very clear that I
It's not a good
thoroughly
wanting like
enjoy it. It's
Infinity
just-
Wars did for Endgame.
it's
It
just
is a
it's just I think due to like a bit of a weak main story,
Mm-mm.
it's hard to leave on that and just be like,
And be satisfied.
yeah,
No,
I'm,
no,
I'm
yeah.
satisfied.
No,
you
I
have
get
such
what
a
you're saying. Yeah.
massive lead up to
So, yeah.
something that is going to be amazing, and then just cut off.
I mean, please, if you want to use
The movie's
mangas-
basically blue balling us.
Pretty
I mean,
much,
if
yeah.
you just want to use like mangas as an example, like Mashuko Tensei's manga does this exceedingly well, where like chapters are regularly ending like abruptly or with things happening in cliffhangers, and it feels weird, and you're like, what's going on? But you know the main story. Like you know in the back of your mind this is what's happening. Like you just know,
yeah.
like you've already predicted it. You just need to see it now.
You already know what's going to happen, but you want to see how they do it, how they
Yeah.
tell the story.
And because it's just a stronger main story. It just feels like it doesn't matter where they end. I know there's more coming, and I'm satisfied. With this, it's like
Like I
just
said,
wish
it
there was a
left
little bit more
Spider-Man
going on. Like,
But you're unsure?
if the spot was like actually threatening and not played off as a fucking joke, like maybe I could sit there and take him seriously and sit there and go, yeah, there's going to be a coming to once he deals with like Prowler Miles, there's going to be a coming together. They're going to like him and Miguel are going to reach an understanding and like they're going to partner up and deal with the spot. Like I've more or less figured out what's going to happen, I reckon. But
it doesn't feel satisfying.
As I said, because it just doesn't feel satisfying because they've played the spot off as a joke. Even though they tried to rectify it, it's like it's too late. Like you've already given us this goofy white outfit guy who just has no idea, and he's he's not actually a villain. He's just a dude doing dumb shit.
So
and
I guess
he's not threatening at all.
So yeah, even though he's like absorbing all these like energy and stuff of colliders and whatever, I'm just like, I can't take this guy seriously.
He hasn't left us with enough of an impact to leave us sitting
Which
here
is
like,
why,
this guy could destroy the universe.
Why,
unlike
as I
Thanos.
said before, and Ryke agreed, like, could you imagine if Miguel's going after Miles, and in doing so, like, Gwen swoops in, saves him, and dies in the process, and Miguel's
100%.
effectively, holy shit, that's compelling. Holy shit, I can watch that and be
But
like,
that was me and you. That wasn't you. That wasn't you and Ryke. That was me and you.
No, Ryke like was
No, that was
me
me
as well.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
He was fully in on
yeah,
that
he
as
was
well.
in it. Yeah.
But like, could you imagine like just how sick that would be, and like how much better that would feel?
I 100% agree. I feel like I don't think it needs to be a family member of Miles that needs to
you could
have
add
that
another part.
canonical event. I feel like it would be Gwen that would be the one to introduce that canonical event.
But that just feels way better. Like, hey, we've got this guy like Spiderman 2099 who's like, you know, Miguel, he's like a bit of a hard ass, blah blah blah. Now he's like getting real serious because Miguel's scared that like Miles is threatening the canon, and it's like, yeah, if he just snaps and like killed Gwen or something, and the film just ended, like, and they go, get ready for the next part, I'd be like, holy shit, let's fucking go. I'm like,
that would be insane.
Now I'm like,
yeah, it would.
I'm super engaged. Now I have an enemy that I can really think about and be like, take seriously. And Miguel,
actively,
like, now I'm like fully in on what's going on. Now there's actually a main story like happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just where this was just lacking. And I'm like, so yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it for so many reasons, but just a weak main story just leaves me wanting, and I feel like once I've seen the next part, I will feel a lot better about it. But just for now, as I've said, it just feels real bad.
I mean, isn't Miguel supposed to be a vampire or a cyborg or something like that?
Yeah, vampire. Yeah.
Be cool to see if Miguel doesn't actually get everything he needs. Like if he gets to take his shot or is delayed in taking his shot, where he actually just goes, right, we're murdering people, and Gwen happens to be one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see how that would just feel better. But yeah, for me, that's what I just going all the way back, like what 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or whatever. Thing I don't like about this movie, that.
Just not a solid impact. Yeah.
Fair.
No solid storyline. No solid villain.
Yeah.
100% no. I'm definitely on board with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that, yeah. I think it's just more of taking a more experimental view. I think so. I'm gonna have a little bit of a leniency, I guess.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah, it's a leniency that it is a build-up story for the next movie, for sure. I don't necessarily detract anything that I've said tonight in terms of what's happened in this particular story. But like Solvy was saying, it definitely leaves you wanting in regards to what's going to happen next story or next movie.
Which kind of leads me to pretty much my final question. What can we expect into part 2 and any closing thoughts?
Everybody dies.
As I said, I'll keep this one super brief because I've loosely just gone over it just then.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think we'll have a Miles v. Miles, Prowler v. Spiderman, like back and forth. There might be like a bit of a tiff or whatever. Gwen and her crew will sweep in and like just in time to save him or something. Then there'll be the case where Miguel finds them all. Then there's like a Spider-Man versus Spider-Man sort of thing before the Spot shows up and he's like, take me seriously. Take me seriously. I'm a bad guy. Let's go. And then he's going to do some stuff. And then they're all going to be like, we got to like come to an understanding. Come on. We're not all that bad. Like come on, Miguel, you can understand. I want to save my family. Look, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but like, give me the chance, bro. And then he'll be like, yeah, look, I'm just scared because of everything that like I've gone through. So you can understand why I don't want these, like, I don't want what happened to me to happen to you. I don't want like your world to potentially disappear just as mine did. And then they'll be like, yeah, all right.
Look, trust me, I can do this. I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah. So I think that'll basically be how it goes down. It'll be Miguel v. Miguel, how things could have been versus how things are. The Spider-Man
breaking of the canon, essentially.
Yeah. Like Gwen and the crew will rock up and like help him out. Then Miguel
hopefully Gwen dies.
We'll skip over that for now.
I'm not gonna say hopefully, but
but like. Yeah, then Miguel will rock up. There'll be like some fighting, and then Spot will turn up and be like, "Take me serious, let's go." And then, they'll probably reach some sort of understanding, and then deal with Spot. That's what I think will happen.
I don't think Miguel will be the one that'll do Gwen in. I think it'll definitely be Spot if this comes about. I think it'll definitely be Spot, and I think it'll be Miguel that will talk Miles down. Come to your senses, blah blah blah, this is what we got to do. And I think Miles will actually go into mission mode after that. I think he'll go into a little bit of a spree of I don't give a shit. At the very least, that's what I expect. I think we haven't seen Miles go through an I don't give a shits phase. I expect that to come about in next movie.
Yeah, I mean, not really. Like before he escaped from the HQ, like he loosely said, like don't did the whole like, oh, don't tell me who I'm supposed to be or what I can do. It's just not
That's
really
less.
like it's not really a don't give a shit thing, but like
Yeah.
that's probably as close as we've gotten.
Like we've got Toby's era of I don't give a shit when he took Venom on. We've got various other Spider-Mans where they go through the I don't give a shit stage, where they're a little bit more abusive and a little bit more what's the word? I want to say raspy, but honestly, there's a much better word for it.
Raspy is a very specific thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm looking for in terms of a personality. A gritty. A little bit more of a gritty stage of where they just don't give a shit. They're just trying to save people in like the most efficient way possible, and sometimes the most efficient way isn't the most nice way, where they stop giving a shit about the villains and stuff like that, where it's just I've lost everything. I am offering you no ounce of sympathy. I'd like to see an angry Miles.
I'm sure it'll come up.
Yeah. Or even one thing you missed there with the most recent Spider-Man against the Goblin. Oh, that was a good one too.
That's right, Tom Holland.
Unleashes.
Yeah, that's right. Tom Holland's I don't give a shit stage of I've lost everything, or you took my Aunt May, or even Tobey Maguire's with you took my my Uncle Ben. That was their I don't give a shit stage, whether you are offered no sympathy, and I would like to see that. But given that this movie and the previous movie are already trying to fight the canon, I don't know how likely it is to happen.
Yeah. Or at least not in the same way. I would like to see him have that emotional snap, but it would probably need to be, in a way that isn't necessarily canon. At least not traditional.
But the only way, like Solvy and I, or like we're all agreeing with, basically, is that the only way that is only going to happen so far, that he spent so much time with this specific person, being Gwen Stacy, is if she were to, even if she weren't to die, but to be injured.
Or you have the perception, even if he gets the perception that she does.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's the only way I see this kind of going down. And like I said, I would like to see Miles angry, because I really feel like he, as a person, or as even canonically as a Spider-Man, has a very lethal temper, where he does break and then he just stops being emotional, stops thinking about other people's feelings and that kind of stuff. And I'd be interested to see how he would portray it.
Yep. Be good. What do I expect for the next movie? I mean, I think you guys summed up a lot of what I would expect for the next movie, to be honest. I'm trying to think of something unique or something different that you guys haven't already explained. It's like, God damn it.
Maybe you can cover the introduction of Spider-Mans that we haven't seen.
True. Some cool new Spider-Man designs. No, I mean, I am obviously as a huge fan. I'm looking forward to seeing the old squad / new squad put together. Like their fight play out is something I'm definitely very excited for. I hope we can see them in action. And as mentioned, the Miles vs. Miles thing I really want to see. I hope that gets a good bit of time too at the start. And anything else notable? And yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen with Miguel. I think he would potentially make for a really cool villain. Given that, yes, like Spot has the potential to be a really powerful villain, but it's hard. Yeah, it's hard. It is hard to take him seriously.
I told you, man. It's just...
He's a bit of a goofy character, but the threat is there. They've mentioned the threat's there, but it seems like the threat's going to be less Spot, or like he might even
just getting in the way.
Spot could do it, but I don't know if it would necessarily be intentional or not. Like on his part, he'd probably goof his way through just becoming a threat to the entire world. Yeah, or multiple worlds. Yeah. So we're gonna have to deal with him. And I do really want to see, assuming Gwen doesn't die here, I would love to see how things pan out between Gwen and because I think one of the really strong points in this movie was how they did the relationship with Gwen and Miles, and I would love to see that play out further.
Just trying to see how much of a threat Spot was. Whether or not he actually was a goofy character, or whether or not he actually was like a multi-universal threat, something like what Thanos was, or not really seeing anything massive from him.
Well, at least not yet, because how it kind of left is kind of him being in Miles' world and more or less exploding, and that's sort of how the last thing we saw of him. I'm gonna be real, I'm not quite sure what I'm expecting in the second part. There's a lot of things that you guys have mentioned, which I was really hoping that it would happen. I think it's going to take place in two different sort of timelines. One in the 42, and then a one in Miles' world, and actually stopping Spot from exploding, because he's already more or less exploded now. Yeah, I think it's just going to take place in two different worlds in two different timelines, and we're just going to see that play out simultaneously.
Yeah.
Because everyone is sort of like all over the place, and we don't really know which world they're heading to next. I have a feeling that Miguel and what's the name with the motorcycle? What's her name?
The Spider Woman on the motorcycle.
Rio
is
not Rio. Rio's some other.
Jess Drew,
Yeah.
I think. Jess Drew, I believe is her name.
Yeah, I feel like both of them are going to go to one world. They have potential to go either, but I'm not quite sure which one. And then Gwen and her crew is going to go to the other. So whether they're going to, have a massive fight, like, Spider-Man and, like, Prowler versus, like, Spider-Man kind of thing. Or just, like, Spot having to deal with Miguel and Jess, or Jess and Miguel having to deal with Miles and the crew having to deal with the Spot. We can really go swinging either way. Ironically. No pun intended. But I feel like that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, sorry. From what I've read here, Spot isn't necessarily classed as a major villain. He's always been a lower class villain.
Yeah.
As suggested. Also part of the Legion of Losers. So it is suggested that he's never been a major villain. He's never really done anything major. So this will be cool to see where they actually take him in this, whether or not they make him a major villain, or whether or not Miguel stays as the main antagonist.
Because like I said before, how Spot was meant to be, just a one-off villain of the week kind of thing. And then now with here, they're sort of expanding Spot's potential. And that's what I really like to see from Spot, because we didn't really get much of Spot, or at least we didn't get much screen time of Spot. So we don't really know what his powers really are, other than he can travel within himself and to other multiverses on a whim, and sort of interrupting that pretty much the map and the canon, which we've more or less seen when they were looking at those spider webs. Wait,
So he's got the potential to be a major villain.
We just don't know how much we get to see on screen for the next movie.
It's a shame that It's a shame that we're left here sitting thinking that Spot's major target is his own Spider-Man and not every Spider-Man. But he's only out for one, which is Miles.
Which is sort of what he's doing now, and he's sort of just detonating his world.
So
and that's all we really know. That's it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to
roll back to the same topic, that he doesn't really feel like a threat.
Well, he's not yet. But I'm hoping in the next movie, in the part 2, that he would be.
Yeah, that's right.
Because I certainly don't want to leave him high and dry. Because I'm actually really excited for Spot.
Honestly, I could go either way. I could view him as either the major antagonist, or whether it's Miles fighting canon to be the major antagonist.
And then that's what I mean by having like two worlds simultaneously, take place. Because all I'm seeing for the next parter is they're going to have a sequence of fights leading up to the big fight, which I'm hoping it will be Spot.
I could still go either way.
Spot or Miguel.
With Spot or Miguel, yeah. Now that you've defeated Spot, Miguel turns around and says, "You're fucking up canon."
Miguel
and Deadpool would hate each other, I'm sure of it.
They first, defeat Miguel because he doesn't have a world to go back to, and then they go to Spot.
It's possible. We are like what all of us have said. We have an idea of how this is going to play out. We
just don't know, and that's what's exciting. Because I think this is because I think this is probably the first movie which I actually don't really know what's going to happen. Because any other movie that I've seen, we still more or less know what to expect on a very confident level. Whereas this is leaving us very unsure as the audience, and that's new to me. I'm excited.
On top of that, we don't exactly have a comic book series behind it.
Other than having references.
That's right. Yeah. Most of the other movies have got an idea of what's going on. Like, Iron Man has followed its comic. Infinity Wars loosely followed its comic. Thor followed its comics. And Spider-Verse doesn't really have a comic behind it.
No, and that's what makes it interesting. Because we got no context that we can actually read upon. We just have a little bits and pieces from a bunch of others, and then they're pretty much just putting all together.
That's right. I mean, we could be totally wrong. We actually don't know of the comic that it exists from.
Not to my knowledge.
Not to mine either.
Yeah. And some other people who I've talked to, they're unsure as well. So it's not uncommon or what we're feeling. It's very much common.
Actually, funnily, we should say that. Actually, if we're this close to the comics and stuff like that, it might have been an okay idea to bring Maximus into this Solvy.
Could have.
Yeah, because he's fairly knowledgeable upon the comics and all that kind of drama.
Yeah, he's very much on top of the comics of everything.
Yeah,
it might have been depending on other things, it might have been a cool idea to bring him in on this to try and see what has happened in comics and get his idea and his take on how things would go as well.
I'm sure any listeners will, if they know, they know.
Correct us.
But other than that, I think it will have a conclusion to all of their issues in the very least. I think Miles also would come out to his parents that he is Spider-Man.
Yeah, that
Come
was
out of the
that.
closet.
And then, all the relations will get solved. The relationship between Miles and Gwen, well, if Gwen's gonna die, well, that's the end of that, I guess. But I think for the most part, their family situations and their issues will have a conclusion of some sort.
Definitely.
Instead of just, in No Way Home, it was more or less just a dream. Because that's what I kind of left it like, it just... Here's the thing. When he went to Doctor Strange, and I guess this is a little off topic, but when he went to Doctor Strange and he kind of like, if he can erase everyone's minds about, that he is Spider-Man and he's Peter Parker in the end, why not just go back and just erase for everyone just seeing the film is erasing the video?
Doesn't even matter.
Rolling credits, I guess.
Well, there's like a lot of annoyances to that. Like, for one thing, even if the world knows who Spider-Man is, it doesn't actually matter. By that theory, I mean Spider-Man has very powerful friends. So if he wants to sit there and basically just be Tony Stark, but everyone knows who Tony Stark is. He's Iron Man. It's like,
yeah.
It's not a hidden fact. It's not like he wasn't able to live a life, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Obviously, as a kid, he's like scared and worried and whatever, but it's like, I think realistically, after the things he'd gone through and some of the friends he has, I think he would have been okay if people knew about him being Spider-Man. But
In that particular universe, sure.
like, what's the biggest problem? During one of his routine dealings with the Sandman, he's responsible for destroying a car and like maybe like some windows or something from a
Fuck
building.
that guy.
So it's like, Peter Parker, what are you doing, man? I saw that while you were Spider-Man. You ruined my car and some windows. Where's that money to pay for it? Pretty sure he could just turn around and be like, yo, Pepper, I need some money to like repair some windows and reimburse a dude for his car. I think he's alright.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the money's stuck. Saved up and probably cover any damages he could realistically do.
Yeah.
So your car got broken? Here, call Bums or Us. It's insurance, I swear.
Alrighty then. Any other last thoughts or is that it?
No.
Nah, I think
Anything
we're
else we
pretty
need to
good.
get off our chest, or have we said it all?
I think we've got to town on this.
Yeah.
Well,
We hit it pretty hard.
well, that is fantastic. For you guys to have an idea of how long we've been talking, this raw video has been going for 3 hours and basically 20 minutes.
What the fuck?
We have talked so much.
Once we cut out everything that Alice has said, down to a comfortable 2 hours, and then we're all good.
I don't know.
Sweet,
There was a
sweet.
lot of editing to go through. I don't know if I can do that. I'm probably just going to slam it in with a couple of tweaks here and there. But
Yeah.
All right,
Yes.
Good luck.
thank you.
Have fun.
You have fun
editing.
with that? I will
Yeah.
sit next to you and try and keep you sane the entire time.
But once again, guys, thank you so much for joining me and this podcastination. It's been fabulous having you guys here.
It has honestly
Thanks
been
for
a lot
having
of
us
fun.
here.
Thank you.
And thank you to you guys for actually listening in and listening to us rant and discuss important topics of this said movie. It's
Screw you guys, we didn't do this for you.
It is such a wonderful movie. I encourage you guys to see it whenever you guys can, because we have talked about the spoilers. Hot psych. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a good day, good night, good afternoon, wherever you are. And
End
look forward
it
to
like
next one.
Truman would end it.
abruptly just ends. Diddle.
Solvy knows what I'm talking about because he introduced himself that way.
What?
Well,
The
hold
way
on.
Truman would introduce and say goodbye.
Ah, yes.
Hi, goodbye. See you later. Click, click. Essentially. Do you guys want to do your outros, guys? However you guys do it onto your streams?
I feel like you guys should go first.
I don't really have any particular outro, but yeah. Thank you all for coming. Hope you guys enjoy.
Yeah, I don't usually do outros. I'm normally host says thanks for coming on, and I say thanks, and that's where we're at. But I don't know. Thanks for listening in. Hopefully we'll come back and maybe do another one at some point based on either the following Spider-Verse movie or something else. But see what happens.
Yeah, I might just say hello, goodbye, go fuck yourselves, continue on. I'll see you next time.
Wow, rude.
Right.
I never claimed to be a nice person.
But I think you're nice enough. Have fun, be safe, and be happy. I'm Cupid Audios, spreading the love.